date today? 5/5/15, 2015. No, I was thinking of We'd like to welcome one and all here for welcome you to the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Suwannee County, Florida. We thank you for participating in your local government. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question during the comments and concerns section from the public, there are cards to fill out in the lobby, and you can turn them into myself or Ms. Pennington here between now and when you want to speak. We'd like to rise now and do the invocation and the pledge, and we'll ask Randy Harris to lead us in that.
Oh, yes. Father, we praise you and we thank you for the opportunity to come together this evening and handle the business of the county. And in that business, we ask you to give us wisdom and guidance and counsel from above. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. We'll jump right into our agenda this evening. Approval of minutes from the prior regularly scheduled board meeting from April 22nd, 2015. Board members, are there any changes or corrections that need to be made? Hearing none, I just need a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Fleming, seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving into the consent agenda items on our agenda this evening, items number 7 have been pulled for consideration at a future meeting. Let's see, and then item number 8 has been pulled for consideration or discussion. Gentlemen, I need a motion for items 2 through 6 and 9.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Fleming,
I second it.
seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item number 8 is approval of committee selection of grant writer administrator of the CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Grant Program and authorized draft of contract for same. Pulled, and we'll turn our attention now to Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you have a copy of some additional information that was provided to you regarding that selection, but for the public's benefit, the scoring from staff came in actually yesterday. We were trying to complete all of this so that we could get this underway because of some timing and some application dates, so we went ahead and put it on the index and brought it in. But for the public's benefit, the highest, or the recipient of the highest scoring in the selection process was Fred Fox Enterprises Incorporated, and that's the recommendation of staff for your consideration.
What are the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Wainwright. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Commissioner Gamble. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
What was the name of that again, please? Fred Fox?
Fred Fox
Fred Fox
Enterprise.
Enterprises Incorporated.
All right, we're on to the constitutional officers item section of our agenda. Are there any constitutional officers present that would like to speak at this time? Hearing none, we'll move into the proclamations and presentations section. And I delayed, we have a little entertainment tonight, and I delayed because Mr. Antoine wasn't here yet, and I didn't know we were having some technical difficulties over here. But we'd like to welcome you up and let you come to the podium and tell us what you'd like to do here this evening, okay?
All right, how you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Seemed like I was just up here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excited to see you again.
yeah. My name is Antoine Jones. I came to the board last October with a vision to help kids in Live Oak through music and praying every night, asking God to let someone else see my vision. That happened. The board voted me in and gave me a classroom at the Douglas High School, where I'm now running a mentoring program through music. And I'm here today to, Mr. Harris and Miss Debbie and the commissioners stop by. And I was looking forward to a lot of people coming out, because everybody just think, I was up here just trying to waste someone's time. But I'm actually changing kids' lives as we speak. And I'm pretty tall for this mic. Yeah, and it's always been one of my main goals. Born and raised here, and I had a chance to leave here. Got a basketball scholarship. Had a chance to go travel around the world, go to college, and meet new people and learn new things. And I'm just back home trying to give back. Well, not trying to give back. I'm giving back. I have kids come in to my program, and it's been truly a blessing because a lot of kids are gravitating to what I'm trying to teach them. It's more than just a recording studio. I know I've been hearing around town, you guys out there just making music, but I'm actually helping change kids' lives. And I want to thank you guys for voting me in. And like I told you from day one, I go 100% with everything I do, and I'm not going to let you guys down, okay? So I have a group that I'm working with right now. These young ladies, I tell you, from the first time, they was a little shy. And I explained to them, I was once there. I was a shy kid growing up also. And over the days, went by, they started gaining confidence. So they're here to sing one of their songs they've been working on. I present to you Brown Eyes. The devil stays busy. Having some problems with. Yes, I'm getting power, but it's not reading my CD, so we're just gonna do it a cappella for you guys, okay? All right. Now the same thing we practice. You guys got this, okay? All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
But I still need love, 'cause I'm just a girl. These nights never seem to go to plan. I don't want you to leave when you hold my hand. Oh, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Why am I so emotional? No, it's not a good look, ain't some self-control. Deep down I know it's never worked. But you can lay with me so it doesn't hurt. Oh, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But
So, yeah, we want to, like I said, when they first came to me, it was little words, and it's a work in progress. So I believe in every kid comes in my studio. I mean, like I said from day one when I came up in front of you guys, I'm trying to change kids' lives, and I think I'm doing that every day. So I appreciate you guys for everything you've done for me.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. It's amazing what you can do with a little mentoring of some students, and you've certainly provided us evidence today of what you're trying to accomplish over there, and I have no doubt that in the future you will continue to change the lives of youth in our community. So we really, really appreciate all your efforts and all the time that you put into this and the money. Thank you, sir. All right, we have one time-specific item on our agenda, which will stop at 6:30 or thereafter to consider. Other than that, we're going to move into commissioner items at this point in time. Number 11, discuss with possible board action capital improvement plan, and we're going to turn our attention over to Commissioner Wesley Wainwright at this time.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Went into a lot of thought and effort into what I wanted to talk about this evening, and going back and readdressing some issues with the capital improvement plan that we talked about at the last meeting. And there's, I'll hand out some information to you fellows. I just want to open up with a couple of different definitions that I looked up and like to share with the board. Definitions of integrity: the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Honesty refers to a facet of moral character and connotes positive and virtuous attributes such as integrity, truthfulness, straightforwardness, including straightforwardness of conduct along with the absence of lying, cheating, theft, etc. Furthermore, honesty means being trustworthy. Lie is an intentionally false statement to a person or group made by a person or group who knows it is not the truth, or simply put, a deliberate untruth. We've been led to believe up until as late as the last meeting that the funding for the library, the Dowling Park Library, and maybe it's just it might be a misconception on my part. I don't know what you other commissioners had thought. But at least Commissioner Gamble stated at the last meeting that we still needed to come up with $380,000 for our portion of the match that we had to meet. Well, the grant match has been waived. It was waived from the very beginning. It was merely a formality of making the request. So the $500,000 match, again, for the Dowling Park Library was waived. I've got a couple of different things. First of all, I'd like to apologize, my sincerest apologies, for not having done my work as a county commissioner. We wouldn't be embroiled in this library to the extent that I feel we are, in the shroud of secrecy that's been enveloped in it. And I'm really disappointed that that I carried on such as I did at the last meeting and worrying about the funding, when all along that $380,000 we did not need to, and we didn't pledge it, thankfully, we did not need to even address that issue. So to begin with, I'd like to address the prioritization of the capital improvement plan. Would hand those down, please. As we listed, there's a number of items that were listed in the capital improvement plan, including the Dowling Park Library, State's Attorney's Office, demolition of the Nettie Baisden building, demolitions of parts of the Douglas Center, fire station in the Falmouth area. And I'd like to stress this now, that we've been kind of nonchalant in the presentation of the need of a fire rescue station in the Falmouth area, but understand that with Pilgrim's Pride and the Catalyst site, we're looking at roughly 2,000 employees a day that are working out there in that vicinity. That's 11 miles from town. A huge opportunity for for some serious mistakes to happen. And I know that myself, I haven't given it due consideration of a fire rescue station in the Falmouth area. We have issues with, again, continuing on with the capital improvement plan, infrastructure, the I-10 interchange. We have a lot of issues with our roads we talked about and how we have to fund the scrap and scop ahead of time. We have the mine issue. Brought that up at the last meeting. We are about to run into a situation, well, we are in a situation where another tropical storm, another 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, and we will be completely out of business at our mine. We will not be able to dig rock. We are just, we need to either move to another location or expand at the location that we're at, which is going to be the, well, it's going to be the purchase of additional lands. So we've got some issues going on there, and that is imperative to the function of this county through its Public Works Department. And then we talked also about the Supervisor of Elections office. I listed those, and they're not in any particular order. I didn't necessarily think that we needed to establish a particular order tonight, but I wanted to bring into focus, by virtue of a long-range plan submitted from Betty Lawrence for the Suwannee River Regional Library, the essence of need. I listed a lot of different things, a lot of different projects that were looked at, and all of them are worthy of consideration, including the library. I wouldn't discount that. But as of, through the executive summary plan that was submitted September 30, 2014 on the long-range plan, currently the Suwannee River Regional Library has Florida's 5th highest per capita square footage ratio in its size class, according to the 2008 Library Directory with Statistics. That's even before we build a library at Dallin Park. We're in the top 5 in the state. In comparison to libraries of its size in the 2008 Library Directory with Statistics, 25,000 to 100,000 users, Suwannee River Regional Library compares well among its 23 comparable libraries. It ranks 5th in its class for circulation, 6th for library cards per capita, 4th in program attendance, 5th in public internet use, 3rd in materials per capita, and 2nd in staff per population. That in itself denotes that we don't necessarily need a library in Dallin Park, that I think that it's primarily based on a want. I don't believe that there's sufficient support on the board to completely abandon the library, although at this point I'm in favor of it. But moving beyond that, there's 3 separate, on the back of your pages, there's 3 separate motions that I'd like to revisit that this previous actions taken by this board. First one is USDA loan through Suwannee Valley Electric Cooperative. Instead of it being directed towards the library, we need to direct this towards infrastructure. Infrastructure is a job creator for our economy, our local economy, not the library. Library is going to be 3.5 jobs. We're searching for funding to expand our infrastructure out to the I-10 and 90 corridor. So I'd like to revisit that, Mr. Chairman. The second one, and I'll just list these successively, and there's no particular order as well as these with this. I'd like to revisit, at our last meeting, we approved the engineering and design for the library, for the Dallin Park Library. I'd like to, well, let me just read. Engineering and design for the library approved at the last meeting needs to have the scope limited to the amount of the construction grant with options listed for Advent Christian Village to consider their financial responsibility. That's a $500,000 construction grant. It's a 5,000 square foot building. That's $100 a square foot. There's a very, that's a very substantial amount, a sufficient amount to build a building. Anything that approaches the wants and desires of Advent Christian Village does not need to be shouldered by the county taxpayers. It needs to be shouldered by Advent Christian Village. Third and finally, I'd like to go back and reconsider the lease agreement with Advent Christian Village, and that the county would have a 99-year lease or own the property. This is potentially a gated community, and 40 years from now, I don't want the commissioners at this board to face the possibility of access to the library being denied to the general public or being limited to the general public. So I'd like to go back and reconsider that and ask Advent Christian Village. Again, this is not something that we necessarily want. This is something that Advent Christian Village desires. And so through the process of negotiation, they want it, we don't need it. So we need to go ahead and set the terms, and if that's not sufficient or satisfactory to them, then we can move on. But I think we certainly need to give that due consideration. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the three motions that I'd like to revisit, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright. Do you want to make each one in the form of a motion, or do you want to have some discussion beforehand?
I'll make a motion, and then we can have discussion, sir.
Okay. Which, you want to consider all three, or you want to
I'll
just?
just take each one individually.
Okay.
I'll begin with the first one I have listed, sir. The USDA loan through Suwannee Valley Electric Cooperative needs to be redirected towards infrastructure and not the library.
There's a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Wainwright. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second it for discussion.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Let's have some discussion, gentlemen.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to lead off with the discussion.
Commissioner Gamble?
Mr. Wainwright provides us with a list of definitions: integrity, honesty, lies. At the last board meeting, he insinuated that he had not been given any information on this other than one page. Tonight, we're handed three options that he wants to address. We're given backup material at the meeting. I sent all of y'all and Mr. Harris an email Friday requesting backup information on this item or some direction, and I'll read it to you. Mr. Harris, agenda item number 11, discuss with possible board action, capital improvement plan, Commissioner Wesley Wainwright, is a broad topic with many avenues of different discussion. Some backup material or direction of discussion and possible board action would be greatly appreciated. I received the email back from Mr. Harris saying to date he had received no backup information. I received an email from Chairman Bashaw saying that commissioners can request an item to be placed under the commissioner item subheading in the agenda and would be responsible for providing the backup information for the item, if any. Mr. Harris let me know of this item and request, and I granted it. If there is any backup information to be provided, Mr. Harris can inquire about it and provide it to you. No backup information was provided. Integrity. Is it the integrity of Commissioner Wainwright to blindside us, show up at the board meeting and say, this is what I want to do, with allowing no commissioner on the board any time to prepare or to research the item that's going to be discussed tonight to best represent their constituents? Now, if we're going to go into talking about the Suwannee Valley Electric Grant, there's several things that have to be taken into consideration on this. It is a grant that Suwannee Valley Electric can apply for. Once they apply for it, it's a revolving grant. All they need to do is secure it. Once they've secured it and the grant has been secured and the money has been paid back to them, it can be loaned back to the county for infrastructure projects. The big thing is securing it. Now, they have already entered into the process with the grant writer and we have submitted him all the information that y'all have been submitted, and even more information that goes back to different things that's happened in the community. It's a point-based grant, and there's several different things. And one of the things is if you've had a natural disaster within the past 3 years. Well, one of the natural disasters that we've had within the past 3 years was Tropical Storm Debbie. That deadline approaches in June. Right now, they are currently in the process of working on this grant, not Suwannee Valley Electric, but the grant writer that they've secured in Alabama. So to insinuate that if we secure this grant through the library, that it has no ability to go back towards infrastructure is not the case. Once it is secured, it stays in the community. Suwannee Valley Electric can continue to give this grant to the next person. The board can come back and say, we want to run a water line, we need $400,000. They have to have a committee that meets, that sides on that grant, and they can loan it back to the community. And we went through this during that board meeting that when we approved it. It will benefit the library's project if they're approved the grant, but it will have long-term effect through the community as long as they secure those funds and have them to replicate back into the community over and over again. There's not a lot of discussion for it on me, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare for it. That's just a brief overview of it.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. Are there any further thoughts from the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Wainwright?
I would propose that we would change the effect of the original grant writing. Yes, we submitted it for the library. Yes, I understand how the process works. But I don't want the library to be in that consideration at all. Let's go back to the backup information. Commissioner Gamble, I was forwarded a copy of a notice that the match had been waived dating July 30th, 2014. Why didn't we get a copy of that why did we not have that?
You have been told that at every board meeting that we've had.
Then
Yes.
why did you state at the last meeting that we still had to meet $380,000 of our match? You
Because
specifically
to
said-
budget it at a level that I have asked the board to budget it at, you would. Now, to sit here and say that we can build this project for $500,000 is false. I had a meeting with the engineer the other day, and I point blank asked him, can we construct a building for $500,000? He said, yes, we can construct a building. I said, can you complete this project for $500,000? He said, no, we cannot.
Per whose specifications? That's what I'm getting at. Let's get into that number two.
Listen.
That's not part of the USDA.
You said a 5,000 square foot building,
$100 square foot,
that's a building.
yes.
Where's your site prep? Where's your sidewalks?
That $100,000 that we got from the sheriff, that is the taxpayers' money, can be
It
used
is.
for engineering and site prep.
So-
Oh, excuse me,
but-
engineering
but-
comes
but
out of
what you're saying
engineering
is-
comes out of the funds that the library already has. $100,000 can be used for site prep.
Nevertheless. Now, when you set your guidelines, are you taking in consideration Betty Lawrence's needs? Are you saying everything that's in that grant is just over $500,000 is absolutely the wants of
We can
Advent Christian
build-
Village? Because I can tell you right now, we built the same library in Lee, Florida for around $850,000. And Advent Christian Village is not operating Lee, and they do not have their influence there. That was the needs of the library that drove the price to be at $850,000.
Then Dallin Park, Advent Christian Village needs to raise the balance of those monies. $500,000 worth of construction grant, $500,000 in contingency funds. The $100,000 that we already have, that's $1.1 million. The rest of it can be raised by private donations.
Yeah, we've got almost $200,000
Okay,
raised.
then
from
that's
private
great. We don't
donations.
need to put another penny into it. We
I
can
want to
limit
read
it
you
to
something else just to ease your mind.
Mr. Chairman, let's get back to the task. We got a motion on the floor in a second. If there any, I'd like to see if there's any discussion, further discussion on the Suwannee Valley Electric Cooperative.
Mr. Wainwright, you're correct. We do have a motion on the floor, as the record reflects. Is there any further discussion from the other end of the board? Just a second. This is regarding the USDA loan and reappropriating the fund, what it would be used for.
I have a question.
Let me clarify something,
Wait.
if I might.
Okay,
Go ahead.
let me recognize.
Go ahead. Let Jimmy go first.
Okay.
Thank you. For clarification purposes, when you go to reconsider the matter, what you're just going to do is reconsider the previous motion and take it. In other words, if this motion passed, it would just take that simply off the table. Then you would turn around and have to make another motion to direct it wherever you want to.
Sure.
So this is just a motion for reconsideration.
Okay.
Okey-doke? All right, just clarify
So we're just gonna-
procedurally.
So we're gonna make a motion to pull the previous decision by the board back,
That's correct.
and then we can reallocate the funding of it. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Mr. Sessions.
My question on the USDA loan, if they change the information on the loan or on the grant in midstream, does that prolong it, and do we run past the deadline?
Wait a minute now, which grant are you talking about?
The grant that USDA loan would be for the Suwannee Valley Electric.
It's just in the process now.
And I
I
understand
don't know
that,
that
but I don't know how
there
deep they are
needs to be
into it.
I don't know if Baynard Ward is here tonight to speak to it. Doesn't appear so.
My concern is if it's changed, it may go past the deadline, and Commissioner Gamble said that we had 3 years, and which would be approaching in June. The 26th is when Tropical Storm Debbie hit, so
Right.
it may change it and make it, delay it so much that it won't be able to be used for anybody in this county.
Sure.
So that's my question.
I don't have an answer for it.
Well, nobody has an answer for it, because I can say at this point in time, nobody's had the ability to look back and do any research on this. Suwannee Valley Electric's not here tonight to represent themselves. This is a grant through them. It's a point-based grant. Everything has different point values. To change it to something else may change that point value. To miss a deadline will also change a point value. This thing can be applied for. We may not even be awarded the grant this go-around. And then it comes into their next year, and you can apply for it again. And at that time, you can apply for it under whatever terms you want to. But it just seems silly in midstream to say, no, we want to back up. I can't help believe that it's not a concern of, let's spend $500,000, let's don't use anything above that. The overall directive of this is, let's kill this project dead in its tracks no matter what. And let's stop at no means above it to get there. That's what this is about. It's not whether we can afford it or we have other projects that we can afford because of this. It's not about, are we going to raise taxes? It's about, let's kill it. That is what the conversation's about. And to back off of this grant is going to lose time. It possibly could lose the grant. And it seems silly. It's
Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw the motion and ask that it be, this particular item be placed on the next agenda.
Okay, sounds good. You withdraw your second, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on to number 2, engineering and design for the library approved at last meeting needs to have the scope limited to the amount of the construction grant with options listed for ACV to consider their financial responsibility. Commissioner Wainwright?
I'll make that a motion, sir.
Okay.
Again,
Excuse me, let me rephrase that. I'll move to reconsider the previous motion, approving the engineering design for the Dowling Park Library.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Wainwright. Do I hear a second?
Again, I second it for discussion.
Thank you. Commissioner Fleming? Gentlemen, let's discuss. Commissioner Wainwright?
As I've stated, Mr. Chairman, I've talked with individuals, and based on the design, a basic design that we would have for any particular county office, county building, that particular building can be built brick and mortar for $100 a square foot. As I stated just a few moments ago, we have a construction grant in the amount of $500,000. That's $100 a foot for a 5,000 square foot facility. We have $100,000 that the sheriff from fine and forfeiture came back to the county. That can be used for site prep. The private donations that remain can take care of, in addition to the balance forward funds that are already at the library, roughly $500,000 there to take care of all the interior needs and engineering as well. So we have sufficient monies outlined already, I feel, to construct the library, and that's where I'll leave it.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Wainwright.
now, we say we got
Commissioner Gamble?
sufficient funds, but I would be interested to know a show of hands of anyone that has asked Ms. Lawrence what her needs are for this library and in the design of it. The one in Brantford was the same grant. We did not build that library for $500,000. The one in Lee was the same grant. We did not build that library for $500,000. The library that is sitting 129 South just past the school was the same grant. We did not build that library for $500,000. The library has certain needs that need to be addressed. To throw up a building just because we have a $500,000 grant and the board sees no need to contribute anything to it is irresponsible. At least irresponsible if you do it without even sitting down with your library director and asking her, what are your needs?
So the building itself, the brick and mortar, we need to appropriate more than the money that's been pledged, plus the $500,000 from the state, in order to construct the building.
I believe we can build this building without a single penny coming back from this Board of County Commissioners. I've gone through this budget, and I would like to have placed this item on the agenda in the coming weeks and discussed it. But I've been going through this budget left and right. I have spent hours at finance, hours in Miss Betty's office, and the money's in this current year's budget to build this library, I believe, without having minimum input from this board in the coming year. But the thing is, nobody wants to take it to budget time. Nobody wants to wait. I shouldn't say nobody. Certain individuals don't want to wait to budget time. They don't want to wait for bids to come in. They want us to make rash decisions in haste, trying to scare the public and scare the people that we're running out of money, that we don't have anything to do it. Now, we've waited for bids to come in. We have discussed waiting to budget time. But we need to hurry up and stop. But because we don't have the money.
Mr. Chairman.
It's there, and, you know, it's unfair to y'all for me to, I've got the information right here, and it's unfair for me to give it to y'all tonight because you haven't had a chance to review it. I'm the only one that's seen it along with Miss Betty, and this came to light about a week ago, and we've been working on it, trying to get something ready to present to y'all. But y'all made it very clear at the last board meeting you wanted to wait to do this in budget time. You know,
Well, that was before we found out that the match had been waived. As of
listen,
July 30th, 2014, we were informed of that.
the match
I
has
wasn't
been
informed
waived.
of it.
You have been informed at every single board meeting that we have discussed this. I have said over and over again, the match has been waived. I even led.
No, you didn't. No,
Pull
you
the.
didn't.
You watched the
Mr.
video
Gill,
from.
I watched the video.
Yes, you
I
did.
Last
Last
meeting,
board
you
meeting,
specifically
I
said
said
we
let
have to meet our portion.
our portion.
$380,000.
If-
The other 100
what I
come from the
said-
sheriff and 20-something from private donations
Let me
comes
tell
to
you
the
something
500
right now.
match.
You are
There will be order. There will be order.
What I said
There
was.
will be order, Commissioner.
There is order.
Commissioner, 1 second. Commissioner Fleming has a comment.
Mr. Chairman, we have Ms. Lawrence stand up, and she's been at the podium for, let's let what she has to say.
Commissioner Fleming, the board, we've been discussing it, and staff will have their opportunity.
Okay.
And I'm sure that she has some input that she wants to give, but we want the board to discuss what's going on. So just stay right there, stay tuned, okay? Now, the other end down here, keep it civil, and I won't beat the gavel, okay? Make your points. and
That
go
gavel
through it.
hadn't been used in a while. It probably
That's
needs to be
true,
used.
but it will get some use.
I have said, and I have stated over and over, that the grant match has been waived. That what is waived is our responsibility from the $500,000 to $1 million. If bids come in at $600,000, the Board of County Commissioners is responsible for $100,000. If they come in at $800,000, the Board of County Commissioners is responsible for $300,000. I have said that over and over again. The match has been waived. It is a 50-50 match. $500,000 from the county, $500,000 from the state. Our obligation has been waived to the point that we have to match it dollar for dollar. We do not, and I have said that over and over again. But not once has this ever been a project that was going to be a $500,000 project. It can't be built for $500,000. That's per the engineer.
Commissioner Wainwright, you want to rebut?
Mr. Chairman, I've already said enough in that regard. The only thing I still contend that based on previous buildings that the county has constructed, I know that we can build a building for $100 a square foot. The wish list that goes on beyond that needs to be somebody else's responsibility.
So are you saying that the needs of the library is Ms. Ballance's wish list? The wish list that we've done in Brantford?
What was the thing about it is we don't know what was asked of the engineer to tell you what he said. And at this point, I don't know if I would want to trust what you say anyhow. So, Mr. Chairman, just as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you can
I-
insinuate that
I
I'm
would
lying
rather
to you, but you know I'm
consider
not.
the motion on the floor and move on. And if there's not enough support, let's be done with it and we can move on to the next agenda item.
Gentlemen, I too, for whatever reason, feel like that we were trying to appropriate funds to a matching grant. That is what I understood, and I never doubted that. And I've given it my support throughout the project, even when you thought I wouldn't. But it was news to me as well that the match had been waived. And that's what I'll say about that. Miss Betty? Mrs.
I think you've
Lawrence.
already made the comment
Pull the mic.
in regards to some clarification. I only came up because I wanted to explain how the match situation was explained to me. We're Red Eye County. Any Red Eye County can apply for a match. What that meant was that you did not have to match with $500,000. It did not exclude you from making a local contribution. That's what was explained to me. So I just wanted to simply make that statement. Where you all go from here with that is your decision. I have been working on some numbers, especially since we've received a statement from the state and our allocation for this year, which was more than what we anticipated. So I've been working on that, thinking that during budget time, you said that it would be addressed. So I didn't bring those papers with me. I guess Commissioner Gamble did, but I am also requesting that if you make a move on this, that you do wait until I have the opportunity to present that information to you. And that's all, really.
You can stay there for just a little. I have some questions. Ms. Lawrence, you can remain at the podium. I have some questions. I'm sure other members have questions as well. As I stated previously, I too received an email forwarded regarding the fact that it had been waived back in July 2014. And up until this point, for whatever reason, I was operating under the idea that it was a matching grant. And my concern is that when this was reported to you, that you didn't, this is the first time I've seen this email. So why would you not, sitting through last year's budget time, sitting through the approval of the library itself, and then sitting through the last board meeting, why wouldn't you remind the board, if these board members knew that information, why wouldn't you remind us of that? Or why wouldn't you say something to that effect?
I didn't think that we addressed the waiver at the last budget meeting. I don't remember
We did.
addressing Darling Park at the last budget meeting. I could be wrong, and maybe we could pull those records and take a look at it. I do remember stating that when we started to talk about the library funding, I do remember saying that I believe that the state, that we applied for a match, because I'd gone through
You did state
ever
that.
since we applied.
did.
So,
You
and I
did.
think that it was Commissioner Wainwright that asked me to verify. So the email was a verification. And
It just seems to me that within the scope of the conversation of a library, and we're sitting here saying, we have to allocate funds for a matching grant, that the importance of saying, well, that has been waived definitively. That any money that we put into this project would be because we wanted to do that. And it seems like that if staff is going to, they would want to sing that to the board. They'd want to say, this information is important and pertinent to the discussion. And I'm failing to see why it was not pushed to the board back in July of last year or during the budget workshop.
Well, I can assure you that I
Didn't
have
discuss
no
it
intention
July of last year.
of misleading the board. None whatsoever. I've tried to provide the information that you all needed for this.
The board was not misled. I have said it over and
I
over
never-
again. I
Mr. Gamble, I
understand
never
you are
said that.
insinuating that you do not know this.
I do not know this.
Well, it's because you
It just
hadn't paid
never
attention
came
in the
up.
board meetings, because I have said it over and over again.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a point of clarity.
Commissioner Wainwright?
Okay, you stated that the approval of the library. Let's go back and restep this. The board has approved a lease agreement with Advent Christian Village. The board has approved the application of a construction grant. The board has approved the engineering of the library, but the board has not approved the construction of the library.
Okay.
There's really only three things that we've done in relation to this library, and none of them have yet to come to the point of actually approving the construction of the library.
Design, construction, the bids, all that will come back in.
That's correct.
It'll be budgeted at whatever the board decides to budget, and at that point in time, you'll either vote to approve or not to approve the construction of a library.
So, Ms. Betty, the question has been posed. I mean, beyond the monies that you already have in a contingency fund, which are for interior finishes and books and so on and so forth, do you have enough money there within that fund to furnish and to do what you need to do inside that library? Because it seems like that's where the rub is coming, is because there's $500,000 for the construction from the state. There's some pledges that have been made, almost to the tune of $200,000. Then above and beyond that, we have to furnish the library, we have to put books in the library, we have to do these things. And I guess the initial number that we have was 1.275 million, somewhere around in
Sort of
there.
estimated cost has come in from the architect that did the Lee Library.
Right, so what more monies past that do you need?
I think that it would be fair for you to give me the opportunity to give you a presentation. I can talk about that right now, but probably what may happen is that I'll miss something that I should be giving you in that form of presentation, and then it will come back and bite me, and I really don't want that to
Right,
happen.
well, I guess you have,
Mr. Chairman?
just a second, I want to make one more statement. You have given us a presentation, and you've said, or we have been presented with information that says that the library will cost $1.275 million, 10% overage, somewhere around in there. We have been requested to go ahead and allocate $1.5 million in the event that should happen, I guess. But above, I guess what I'm saying is, you've already presented us with information that says we need this amount of money, and what we're saying here this evening is, if your needs are above and beyond that, then we haven't been informed of that. So
Above
I
and
think we know.
beyond, clarify, please, above and beyond which amount of,
Well, you have $500,000 from the state.
right?
You have nearly $200,000 in pledges. Then you
we
have
have-
the balance between that amount of money, $800,000, and the $1.275 million, which would be for the interior finishes and so on and so forth, which we've already said, we understand that. We understand that.
That comes from a
Well-
contingency, the balance.
Correct.
It comes from contingency, but I also, and I had not planned to present this information or to mention this particular piece of information because I was preparing it for the budget time when you said that we would take a look at it. But this year's state funding was increased more than what we anticipated. And what I was looking at was requesting that the board would allow me to transfer the monies that, just the dollars that you've given, which is, I think it's about $450,000 to $500,000 in cash money that the board gives the library each year. To transfer some of that over into construction, which can be used for construction, and also use some of the extra monies that I received this year to make up the difference in the operating.
So the money that we would typically give back at the end of the year, we would allow some of that to flow into the project.
Well, actually, you wouldn't give any back because we always spend local first. But my intent was to transfer over local from the operating budget, which would be coming from the board's operating part.
I understand.
Because I received additional funds.
I understand the way that we fund the library in order to get the state fund. I understand that. Commissioner Wainwright?
Mr. Chairman, the capital improvements plan that was submitted last meeting, 1.275 million, which you stated. We have 500 at construction grant and 500 contingency, 100,000 from fine and forfeiture. That's 1.1 million. The balance of it has already been predisposed to private donations. So if that was sufficient for the capital improvement plan, then why do we have to even bother with going through all this discussion? It's easy enough to go ahead and limit the engineering and scope of that library to the $500,000 construction grant. We don't need to build $1.5 million facility.
Okay.
If
Commissioner Campbell?
if Advent Christian Village wants $1.5 million facility, then they need to pledge the other $275,000 or $225,000 to make that architectural difference.
Okay. Commissioner Gamble?
What Ms. Lawrence is speaking of here, every year we budget around $450,000 that we anticipate receiving from state aid. This year we received $628,227 actual dollars in state aid. There's a difference there that we can use in this year's budget of $178,000. What Ms. Lawrence was going to request of the board is that the operating funds that the board puts in every year, which to the tune of about $400,000, that she'd be able to minus $178,000 of that and place it in the construction line of the library, replacing that $178,000 with the unanticipated revenues increased from state aid for this year. Those dollars are allowed to operate and run the operations of the library, and can go back into that $450,000 line. I talked with our auditor, Mr. Powell, last week, and got his approval of it. Also spoke with him on the pledges and how to budget them at budget time. And I've got an email back from him saying that it is within the law and legal to use pledged private party donations as a revenue line in the budget. There's two things that you have to have. You have to have the amount that they're going to pay, and you have to have them give you a date that they're going to pay it. And to count it in that budget year, that they have to be willing to pay it in that budget year. So if we got someone that's going to say, we'll give you $100,000, you can legally budget that into your budget as long as they're going to pay you within that budget year that you're going to construct the building. We've done that for the past 5 years with a pledge from Advent Christian Village. They pledged $100,000 to us, and every year we budget in our green bar, there's a line, $20,000. So I was planning on bringing all this to light when we got into it at budget time, but I believe that you have to budget that at 95%, just like we budget everything else. But I believe with moving the monies around through Ms. Lawrence's current year budget, the pledges that have come in that we can legally budget, the $100,000 from the sheriff, the $22,000 that's already there, and the money from the state, that we're approaching about $950,000. And I pray that the bids don't come in at $950,000. I would love to see them come in at $750,000 or $850,000. But they need to come in where the library needs to be. I mean, Mr. Wainwright said, if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. And I think to back off at spur of the moment without any thought on what the library's needs are, what the needs of the community is, and you can point and demonize the Advent Christian Village and point to them and say, if they want it, they can do it. They didn't ask for the library. And it goes beyond the community of the Advent Christian Village. We've provided all those numbers, 10-mile radius of how many school children are there. It stretches into District 3 to District 1, and even across the river into parts of the regional library system. So this is not a library for Advent Christian Village, and to say if they want it above and beyond the $500,000, they can pay it. I believe that the monies are there. And like any time this board has ever decided to put their mind behind getting a project done, they find the monies. It's just, it's apparently clear that let's kill it at all cost, without giving any reason of thought. Let's don't give any time to process it through the budget time. Let's kill it. Let's kill it, let's kill it, let's kill it. And if we're honest, we know why we're trying to kill it. But that's a different discussion for a private place. So I would ask the board not to limit the construction, not to tie the hands of the engineer. Let's build the library the way it needs to be built. And I want to go over something else, because the lease is coming up, and we talk about not building the library to where it needs to be. But I went through and pulled up several buildings that we own, have owned, and I looked at their lifespan that we used them. We got the Douglas Center that we own that the school board built. We got the Nettie Basin building that we own that the school board built. We had a library by the courthouse. We had a county hospital. We have a county office currently unused on the second floor building in downtown. Now, the Douglas Center was built in 1951 and continued construction to 1966. It ceased operation in 2006. If we take it from the first day that they constructed it to the last day, that's 55 years. Now, we used that building for 55 years. Now we're toiling with the ideas of how do we bring that building back into use. We're looking at spending millions, not millions, thousands of dollars to bring it back into use. And I'm not saying that that is not a worthy project, because I'm behind it 100%. But what I'm trying to relate here is the years. Nettie Basin was built in 1949 and operated as a school and as a county school board office to 1995. It's 46 years. We're looking at spending $100,000 minimum to destruct it, tear it down. The library by the courthouse was constructed at the phase that we all remember it as a two-story library building, 1962. And I've got a question mark by the year because I couldn't find a current date or a reliable one, but I believe it was around the year 2000 that we tore it down for 38 years. The county hospital was constructed in 1948 and operated as our county hospital to 1995, 47 years. Now, granted, we sold the hospital for $4.5 million, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm overlooking that fact, but I do recognize that we sold that hospital not $4.5 million for the building, but we sold it for the certificate of need to provide a hospital in Suwannee County. The county office, the upstairs, was remodeled to its current state in 1994 and operated as the county office until 2013, where it currently sits as storage. That's 19 years. 40 years falls within the use of our county buildings. It falls within the lifespan that we have seen through most of our county buildings. After 45, 50 years, the buildings seem to have substantial need of upkeep or renovation, and the board historically has chosen not to do it, and the buildings now sit empty. So I think that the 40-year lease is appropriate lease. We have a year-to-year after that. After 40 years, my feeling is the board's probably going to want to move on to something bigger and better.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. We have a motion on the floor, motion and a second as the record reflects, for the engineering and design for the library approved at the last meeting.
That was reconsider the motion.
To reconsider the motion at the last meeting. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I would just ask the board to withdraw their motion or either withdraw their second. I believe there's too much information that you do not have at this point to make this decision. And I'll follow whatever decision the board wants to make, but I want to see them make a responsible decision with all the backup material. You know,
At this point, I think it's a little grandiose.
I don't think
To
it
go
is.
to an $800,000-$900,000 building.
What the engineering and design of the library that was approved is not, is it beyond state standards, or is it to just exactly the bare minimum of what state standards require? That's my question.
And I would tell you tonight, I'm not prepared to answer that question. I haven't, you know, you're asking me a question in the board meeting, and I have not studied that answer.
Well,
Could you ask the question?
let me ask you a
again?
question, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Betty, I didn't.
He yields to
I'm
you.
sorry, I thought you were
No, go
speaking
ahead.
specifically to him.
If you have information that's pertinent to my question, I would appreciate it.
In the application, if the application or if the intent of the way we bill is drastically revised, then we do need to take a look at what the contract said that we were agreeing to do, what you signed off on. I guess everybody know contracts can change, but there is a process where that needs to happen, and there are probably penalties if we change it drastically. Now, I say drastically. That would be like, we said we want a 5,000 square foot facility.
That's
We
what,
go beyond, if we lessen it beyond 3,000, then that means a breach of, there's a
but
problem.
I guess my question is the library look the same as the one in Lee or the one in Brantford? Does it look the same? Those obviously met state standards.
The library's interior, as we had planned, would look the same. Maybe a few cosmetic differences in there, but it would look, the technology, the design, we planned it based on that scenario.
So the interior would look the same, but the exterior of the building, when you look at the one in Lee, which is on US Highway 90 there, I assume that's where it's at.
Well,
It
all
would
of them
it would
look
look similar.
different.
Well,
They are.
Right, but
I
I'm
can-
saying, is it minimum, was the one in Lee built to state standards minimum for that community? Was the one in Brantford built to minimum state standards, or what are the standards, I guess, is the question.
Well, I can tell you, the one in Lee, this library will look very similar to it. I actually had a meeting with the engineer the other day and actually handed him a picture of the Lee Library and said, this is what I would like to see us go for. Now, he said, I don't believe in doing copycatting someone else's design, which I completely understand. But, you know, we talked about the exterior and hardy board and, what do you call it when you come up with the brick so far? What they call it, a wainscot? And that's the same design that they have for the Lee Library. The Lee Library, I believe, has a metal roof, and we talked about asphalt shingles. So, I mean, to make it sound like we're wanting to go way above and beyond what we need to please the Advent Christian Villages, it's not true. We're trying to bring this at the same cost that was at the Lee Library, was at the Brantford Library. You know, the Brantford Library is brick, best of my I can remember. We're not looking for special siding. You know, we're going to have certain appearance that we would like to achieve, but we're going to achieve that through paint and trim colors. It's not.
See, we're getting into.
I know we're getting into
a
the
little bit of
details
detail
that we've
now,
talked with the architect.
But
I mean,
the
I'm just wanting-
buildings need to be so that they can handle holding collections, the kind of weight that goes in there, the technology that goes in there. And from my understanding, that's what Lee, Branford, Jasper, all the others was built based on. If that's fluff, that's not the impression that I got.
Okay.
It was basically to be able to handle the collections, be able to handle the technology, that the environment be appropriate for what was to be put in there, climate control, a lot of those basics, so.
And there are certain factors in the library that you have to take into consideration, and some of it is safety, the amount of traffic that you're going to have. I mean, this isn't one or two people coming in a day. These libraries get pretty extensive use. You have a large amount of a large number of people coming through them on a pretty regular basis. But you look at the safety factor, and some of the things that we've discussed with the design of it is in our libraries now, some of our rooms, you have no ability to use them unless there's a staff member there, because they're secluded. You can't see through the walls. And we've discussed the need of, a wall chair high with maybe glass or some kind of transparent. Those are the different needs that we're looking at. But I can tell you, if you come in now and stamp a price, say we're going to do it for this, you're going to get a building that the library's not going to be happy with, the community's not going to be happy with, and you're going to get a library that we're going to have to put our hat on and say that's what we approved as a Board of County Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wainwright?
we're just getting bogged down with all these numbers, and it all sounds great and fine, but
I guess
A
everything
lot
that
of
comes
the-
out of our mouth's a lie, and you speak the truth. So go ahead, Mr. Wainwright.
I appreciate you letting me have the floor.
Go ahead.
All the numbers sound great, and we've got a great presentation. The thing about it is a lot of those interior costs, again, go back to the contingency dollars. I'm talking about just the brick and mortar. We can build a structure for $100 a square foot. We don't have to go into all the needs and the special things that's got to go on and all that. Like I said, all that sounds pretty neat and fancy, but there's a lot of those things can be addressed with contingency dollars inside. I'm talking about just the structure. So, Mr. Chairman, I would prefer that we just move on with the motion that's at hand.
Well,
Unless others want to say,
Commissioner
we're just
Wainwright,
beating
we're
it to
trying,
death for nothing.
we're trying to get to the bottom of the issue. I know that there are a lot of questions. I don't know if anybody has I'm trying to ask the questions that I have. I'm hoping that there are more questions, but it's an important decision to call back a decision that the board made previous. So
Yes, sir, thank you.
all I'm trying to do is say, should the board, in my mind, I should say, because I can't make a motion or anything, is what I'm trying to say is, do these plans need to be called back in? We need to revisit them and then make a decision again moving forward with a little more input, because if we can build it for less money, then that saves the taxpayers money. And that's what we're interested in doing. Finding out that we didn't have to necessarily put any money in for the state to give us $500,000, we may be able to do that. But to say, let's just, scrap the project, and, that's probably not what this board wants to do. But the engineering and design, to call that back and to look at it, that may be reasonable. So, but the board has to make that decision, and I have questions, and I'm listening intently, and maybe that there are some other commissioners that have questions as well, pertaining to whatever.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies for trying to limit the discussion.
Okay.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, my desire is I don't want to scrap the project. Maybe we need to look into more detail on what's going on. That's my desire.
Well, I think so too, and I've just asked the board members, as they sat on this board, the limited time that Commissioner Sessions and then Commissioner Fleming, having been here for the time that you've been here, did you say, in your mind, was it, we had to match this, or we didn't have to match it? Because, like I said, under my impression was, if we're going to go forward with this project, we have to set aside those dollars. And then the other day, I didn't get that.
Well, I didn't get that.
So,
slighted somewhat.
yeah, you
I
did.
I didn't get all the information, and we need more information, and I said my desire is that we look more in detail what.
And it's the
I
desire
don't wanna
of the
scrap it.
board to save the taxpayer as much money as possible. Okay. So that, I guess that's the reason for the discussion, and if there's a motion and a second on the floor as the record reflects. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just think we all need to make an educated decision on this, and it's clearly apparent to me that not all the facts are out there, and that there's funding that we don't know exactly is happening. We don't have the return on, we don't have the actual bid yet on what it's going to cost. So without that information, we need to make an educated decision. Without having it, we need to wait till a later time to bring it up when we have the information.
Okay. But-
One more statement, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wainwright.
and this will wrap up my discussion. All I'm asking, we've already approved to go out for the engineering of the library. We need to evaluate and closely look at the scope of what is being requested. We can ask for a lot of things, and it'll run that dollar figure up. Or we can ask for the basic need to be met to qualify for the construction grant. And again, it comes back into, we need to limit the amount or the scope of the project. We don't need to give it just an open end. We can just build whatever we want. So that's all I'm asking for, is to just, first of all, let's go to the engineer and let's draw up a plan that's limited. Right now, it's unlimited.
Okay.
Well, that's what we've hired the engineer to do, is to draw up a plan. And speaking with him, I know he has spoke with Mr. Harris, and the week of the 11th, he has said that he would have a drawing prepared for Mr. Harris, Ms. Lawrence, myself, to sit down and start looking at different things on what we think we need. I know there's been talk of, let's build it with metal studs. That's how the Lee Library was designed. But in conversations that we've had, no, let's back that out. Wood is sufficient, but we'll do it with wood. It reduces the cost. Nobody wants to build this thing any more than it has to. You know, I want this library. That is no secret. I have a desire for it to be built. But I also have a desire not to burden the taxpayer of Suwannee County anymore. And that's why I've sat down with the architect. I can't invite y'all to every meeting that I have with the engineer. Y'all can't be there. But I go there in good faith, sitting down with the best interest of this board. I mean, we sat down, and I'll tell you right now, I asked him when we sat down the other day to bring the entire project in, to try his best to bring it in under $900,000. I knocked $100,000 off right then without even discussing it with the board, just because I don't want it to be at budget. I don't want it to be over budget. I want it to be under budget. But I don't want to undercut it to the point that it is going to be a disgrace on this board when it's built. Now, by asking him to come in and build this thing $100,000 less than what I have asked y'all to build it at, and the hard work that's been put in, looking through Miss Betty's budget and trying to find the funds within the library budget, not within the county budget, to construct it, we say it's okay to fund it $500,000 because it's coming out of library contingency. Just a stroke of the pen, we move $178,000 out of library contingency and fund the construction line. It's coming from the same pot. And it's not $178,000 that will burden the county because it was unanticipated revenues. That's the beauty. I mean, this came in unexpectedly. You know, we didn't budget for it. We didn't think it was coming. So a lot of the things y'all are asking to do have been done to an extent with the architect. Maybe not to the level that some commissioners want to bring it down. But I mean, despite what y'all may think that I'm trying to keep secrets or hide something from you, I can't have a meeting with you other than in here. And I have tried my best to make this as easy for y'all as possible when it comes in. I don't want you to have to sit there and get beat up for spending more money than you have to spend. I want it to come in under budget, but I don't want to shortcut it.
Thank you, commissioners. All right, we'll try this one more time. with the engineer, regarding the engineering motion on the floor, what are the wishes of the board? We've made the motion, the second has occurred, we've had plenty of discussion.
Plenty of discussion. I would just still ask that, one of the second or the motion be pulled, and let's don't even vote on it. Let's move forward with the project as we've had. If the board wants additional information, wants a better presentation on the funds, let's do that. Let's have more discussion, but let's don't limit it.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to number 3, reconsider the lease agreement with the, well, before we consider this, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 7:27. Gentlemen, before we go back to number 3, what I've decided to do is go to time-specific items, number 10, at 6:30 p.m., or as soon as the matter can be heard, hold a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution closing a portion of Colorado Avenue and Nevada Avenue. This time, I'd like to open public hearing, and at this time, anybody offering testimony would need to stand to be sworn.
If anybody here thinks that you may testify with regard to this item here, would you all stand to be sworn? Okay, well, each of you raise your right hand then. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this public hearing regarding this road closing will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll turn our attention now to Ronald Meeks, Planning and Zoning Director.
Mr. Chairman, board members, the application that you have for consideration is for the closing of portions of Colorado Avenue and Nevada Avenue, as well as the alleyway between Block 66 of the old plat of Dowling Park. The location of this specific section of ground is south of County Road 250. It's almost directly across from where the old truck route is, or the newly realigned County Road 136. I was able to blow up a map of that portion of the plat of Dowling Park. This is Block 66 right here. These other blocks that you see with the highlighted in green are portions of roads and alleyways that are adjacent to this that have already been closed in previous applications. The subject property is right here, and it would be this portion of Colorado, this portion of Nevada, as well as the alleyway between Block 66. This entire block is currently owned by one property owner, which I believe has a contract for purchase from a retail store for their construction of their site on this proposed property. The adjoining property, as well as the properties to the south, is owned by another property owner. Any of the properties to the immediate south would currently have access off of 114th Street, which is just east of the intersection of 114th Street and 235th Road. The portion of Nevada is what separates the current property owner with the adjoining property owner, and if the application is closed, then that owner of Block 67 would obtain ownership to the center line of Nevada. The other center line to the east would go with the owner of Block 66. So what you have before you is a resolution prepared for approval of the closure of that portion. The distance, I believe, is 265 feet from the south right-of-way line of 250 continuing south along Nevada, Colorado, and the alleyway that's between Block 66.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks. Is there anyone at this time who would like to speak to this matter? Are there any questions of the board? Hearing none. Mr. Pravat?
Thank you. Mr. Meeks, you do have some paperwork that came as an application.
Yes, sir, and I will submit that as part of the, into the record.
Well, thank you. It's Composite Exhibit 1, and I'll take it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pravat. Wait a minute, did you stand and be sworn? Well, stand and be sworn.
Okay, before you speak, try the other, there you go, the other right hand. Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in this proceeding before the board on the road closing this evening will be the truth, so help you God?
Please
Thank you,
come to
sir.
the podium and state your name and full address for the record, please.
My name is Wiley Grantham. I live at 12237 235th Road in Dowling Park, Florida. My only question is, before the road closing is done, I heard him, Mr. Meeks, state that this was a retail business going to be moved in there. Is there any information on the type or whatever for this to be able to happen? Because, I mean, you got to close the roads in order to expand the area or give them a maximum amount of space for the parking and draining and everything else. If I'm not mistaken, that's a flooded area under most conditions when we have floods out there, and I have to be aware of those from personal experience. So, I mean, before y'all make the decision, are y'all going to at least review what's going to be done with that, or is it viable? How viable it would be? Because as a property owner out there, I'd like to know what kind of business is going to be open there. My only question, whether or not y'all are going to review it and whether or not it's going to be made public before this is moved forward.
Well, I'm sure that if there needs to be some sort of change, it's residential property currently right now, is that correct, or is it commercial property? It's commercial property, so whatever is allowed under the commercial permit or under the commercial zoning at this time would be allowed on the site. What's coming before the board at this time is the closing of the road, so we're not considering anything with regard to zoning or anything at this point in time with regard to the business. We're simply closing 2 roads.
So anything they want to build out there, they could go ahead and move forward with it as long as it's within commercial aspects.
As long as it meets the commercial criteria as outlined with the particular zoning.
Because those were all camping lots or that sort of thing out there years ago. They were like little teeny tiny lots. Nobody could use a single one of them except for a campsite or whatever. And I was just wondering how it was being changed over from that, what the process would be.
It was not given to the board because that's not what the board was considering at this time.
Just close the road
All that
closure.
we've been asked to do is close the roads, that's all.
Okay.
And I believe
This will come out at a later date.
I'm sure it will.
I'm sure that
But I
they
mean,
would want to.
This road, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Meeks, but I believe this is just a platted road there's not a road there, it's just on a map.
That's correct. It's part of the plat. Currently, it's planted in pine trees, so it's undeveloped and not maintained. It's no secret. I mean, the parking layout was previously before our Planning and Zoning Board at our last month's meeting. The proposed development is a Dollar General store. We had, based on the layout of their parking scheme, the stormwater that they're going to have on site, as well as the landscaping, it just made the best sense for this area that could be utilized is not being utilized currently.
Okay. All right, is there any further testimony in this matter? Come to the podium.
The reason I asked is I didn't want a liquor store moving in down the street from my house. I mean, be what it may, that was my only question. I didn't want some kind of something I don't want.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there any further testimony? Hearing none, what are the wishes of the board?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Gamble, seconded by Commissioner Wainwright. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Mr. Meeks. And
Thank
we'll
you.
close public hearing at this time. All right, let's move back to the fun stuff, yes? We're moving back to item number 3, under consideration of an item number 11 that Commissioner Wainwright wanted to discuss with us. We'll turn the floor back over to Commissioner Wainwright.
Gentleman simply states, I mean, it's, given the prospect of, in the years past, when I first came on the board, we had built some, there'd been some properties that were built some buildings that were built on some properties that the county did not own and had some problems. And I don't think that there's going to be any problems with Dowling Park, other than my only concern down the road is just making sure that if we're going to invest and we're going to do this, then it needs to have public access into perpetuity. After 40 years, you know, I don't know, we're not, if we are still around, God bless us if we are, you know, there's a board that's going to have to face the issue of whether or not Dowling Park wishes to take over that and make it a part of their restricted community in some parts or not. And so my only concern was, this just came back to me at the last meeting, and that, and I had reservations to begin with. I would, you know, a 99-year lease would be fine. And better yet, if we even owned the property, it'd be fine. And so that was the only reason I brought that forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Wainwright. Is there any further discussion on this matter? My concern is, I had concerns with the lease, but, you know, in legislation or policy that you pass, there are parts of it that you like and parts of it that you don't. My vote reflected in favor of it, but this is something I did have some heartburn over. And I think that none of the taxpayers individually would necessarily do this. But, you know, if we do it collectively with tax money, it seems to be somewhat acceptable. I think that reconsidering it is something that we should probably have a discussion about, as I indicated at the last meeting, but it was pointed out to me that we had approved it. So if there's no further discussion, ask what wishes of the board are with regard to reconsidering the lease. If we pull it, there's nothing to vote on.
No motion.
Well, I know.
Okay, asking for a
That's
motion.
what all I'm doing.
All right.
Just a second, Mr.
What-
Snowden. Hearing none,
what,
Mr. Snowden?
Mr.
Snowden, go ahead.
I'll wait to see what, I'd like to hear Mr. Snowden's comments.
Mr. Snowden, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Wendell Snowden, 3302 104th Street, Welborn. My vote is to not scrap the project. Okay, that being said, Mr. Gamble said that Advent Christian didn't ask for a library, but they did choose the location, I believe, and the property that it's going to be built on. Who did choose it?
Danny Hales was the library director at the time. He went in and asked them for the most visible location that they were willing to give him. So the library
And maybe they could consider later, when you get into workshops and stuff, of moving that, changing it. Who knows? I don't know what the workshops might lead up to. But I don't know about everybody else in the room, but I'm very bothered by what's been said and the arguments, everything that Mr. Wainwright brought up. And I'm not really satisfied, I guess not that I have to be, I'm just one person, with Mr. Gamble's answers about all this stuff that we're sitting through. He said he doesn't want to burden the taxpayer, but what would have happened last 2 weeks ago if that vote had been 3-2 instead of 2-3? I'm not
Well,
finished.
I'll answer
You
that.
can butt in a second. Let me finish my comment. That if that vote had been 3-2 instead of 2-3, would we not had voted to, you demanded action and said you wanted to vote? What were you getting ready to say?
Well, you asked what it would, yes, I asked the board to allocate funds at the last board meeting, but it would not have done anything but earmark those funds till budget time.
Yeah.
The whole point was that I did not request that item to be on the agenda or ask for us to look for the funds. That was a question that came from the county administrator, and at that point in time, I did not know about the contingency in Miss Betty's budget, so the only place for me to look for funds for this purpose was to allocate funds for the purpose of a capital improvement plan, was to point to the reserves until we could get into budget time. And I stated in that board meeting that we would be discussing it again in budget time.
Well, one of your comments is we could lose the grant in its entirety is correct because of what's been going on here tonight and in emotions and stuff. But we could lose the grant also, really, if the state found out that that we were requesting at every meeting that we have a demand for matching funds when we didn't really need it, don't you think? And that's one point. And you made some statements about that at every meeting, every commission meeting, you have talked about the dollar for dollar being waived.
If we talked about the library, I have.
And no, you haven't. I've been at every meeting,
No,
and
sir. You have not been at a library meeting until this last one,
library meetings, I've been in these meetings.
these meetings. I'm not
Yeah,
saying every.
but I would suggest, you know what? I sat through we sat through 2 hours, over 2 hours 2 weeks ago, and I watched the video, and it was mentioned at least 4 times in the video that we had to match the $386,000. And at 2 hours and 5 minutes and 21 seconds, you said it's a 50-50, we have to match it. You didn't mean that then, or you meant it now? Or
Budget for it, you do.
Pardon me?
You do have to match it if you don't know where your bids are coming in. How
Well-
are you going to waive a match when you don't know how much it's going to cost?
How can you have a,
Do you not budget for a project before you build a project? Did you budget for your house before you built your house?
how can you have a waiver since July 30th and not tell anybody in this room
I'm
about it?
glad you said that. I got a newspaper article that I submitted to the newspaper November 18, 2014, where I said in the newspaper article, the match, let's see, this is $1 million coming from the state and leaves us responsible for the last $500,000, which is a 50% match to the grant. Suwannee County is a rural county of economic opportunity, and because of this, the state has waived the full $500,000 match so that the only amount needed over the $1 million from the state would come from us. The $1 million being the $500,000 from state aid and the $500,000 from the match. That was November 18, 2014, in a letter to the editor. I said it then, and I have said it continuously in these board meetings.
Then what was 2 weeks ago? What were we doing?
I led that meeting off saying that it was a match that had to be met for budgeting. I've said that from the very beginning. Now, if you want to look and play on words, y'all are welcome to, but from the very beginning, I have said that if we're going to budget for it, we need a budget at the full amount. Then we'll back off whatever it comes in at. That is no different. When you hire a contractor to build your house, you budget before you build.
Well, I can't debate all the dollars and cents with you because I'm not following the entire budget and the entire process.
What I'm saying is y'all are standing up here in a group effort tonight to say that I am point blank lying to y'all and that I have not mentioned this grant. And I have mentioned that it is waived. And this is a group effort. We know the main players in this little group effort that's coming forward tonight. And y'all are coming up here with a letter about integrity, lies, and being truthful. And I think maybe some of y'all should read that letter tonight.
Where's my copy? I don't have it.
Go forward. I'm just saying, you want to stand up there and point out that I'm lying. I haven't lied about this. I've been very honest. That's a newspaper article that I submitted to the newspaper, and I know you read it back in November because you're a very avid reader of the newspaper, along with several other people. Now, I'm not trying to be personal with this, but y'all are making it personal when y'all come at me with saying I'm lying.
Well, I'm not saying scrap the library. I'm just saying we don't need to talk about matching dollars when we don't have to do it. We don't have to spend 3 hours in this meeting 2 weeks ago and go back and forth with it. There's other commissioners here that were under the impression that we still had to match it, as I am.
I apologize for them being under that impression, but nevertheless, doesn't take away the fact of what I've said.
Well, that being said, but how can they vote, Ricky, if they don't understand what you're talking about, if they don't understand that the match has been waived, how can they vote with good conscience about of doing that? And if you take the library, build the library, we don't need all the controversy that goes with it. We don't need to have to worry about a gated community, and I'm sure all this will come out in workshops
It's not a gated community.
in the future.
And if there is a lease for 40 years on a county building inside of it, it cannot be a gated community.
We
Got an
can-
attorney sitting right there asking.
We can build a library. I think if we build a library with state funds and guidelines, it could be done for under
It can be done.
$800,000, but.
It can be built where it needs to be built. It can
But the
come-
rest of it, if if all the other stuff is in question, then the chairman just needs to, you need to go back to '08 and come forward and do an investigation on it, and so that the public in the room knows exactly what's going on.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Snowden. Thank you, Mr. Snowden. Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Gamble, on reading us the newspaper article. Appreciate
I
you
mean,
bringing that up.
I'm not trying to hide anything. Y'all been very open and honest with this project from the very beginning. And I don't appreciate the insinuation that I'm trying to keep something from y'all. Y'all can't be in every meeting that I'm at. I can't be at every meeting that y'all are at.
I appreciate the discussion.
I appreciate the discussion
So
too.
that's what we're doing here. So let's just get back to the business at hand. So if there's any action that the board wants to take on number 3, then I'm happy to hear it. If you guys want to consider it now or later, whatever the wishes of the board, I can't make a motion.
have a
Hearing none,
question.
Commissioner Sessions.
Has anybody talked to anybody, and Ricky, I guess you know this, has anybody mentioned to anybody in Dowling Park about anything past 40 years? Has that been
From
thrown
what
back and forth?
from what I've got from them right now, that it's a 40-year lease. We have entered into an agreement with them. We have a signed lease by our chairman, and I know their stance, and they're not going to a 99-year lease. They're not deeding the property to us. I hate to see us back up and go back something that we've already been to. I understand people's heartburn with the lease, but, you know, we've raised almost $168,000 from people in the community that pay taxes that know it's a lease. And I hate to bring this up again, but if you take the amount of money that this board will put into it at the full $500,000 and divide it over 40 years and call that a lease payment, that's $12,500 a year. We've got almost $2 million worth of equipment leased for less than 4 years. And, you know, the definition of a lease is a service from a product, a piece of property or a piece of equipment, a specific amount of time for a specific amount of money. And I mean, we're going 2 years for $200,000 on dump trucks. We're going, you know, and I'm not saying that those are bad leases. I voted for them. They're good leases. But dollar for dollar, they're comparable.
I have one more question of you. Is there any commitments out there that are based on signing of a contract? Do you know of anybody that's holding back funds that would probably commit to providing funds to the library if a contract is signed?
I know for a fact that our main guy that has pledged $100,000 said until the board shows that their commitment is to move forward building the library, he's not cutting a check. But that when we decide to sign on the line with with the contractor to build it, that he'll write us a check.
So that's an additional 100,000.
That's part of the $160,000 that I talked about has been pledged, but he's not sending us a check. He doesn't trust us enough to send us a check for $100,000 until we've signed a contract.
Till we sign the contract, okay. So
And
I
I
don't know.
personally don't blame him.
Thank you.
That's the only questions I got.
Thank you. Does the board want to take any, to talk about that? We can talk about this further, or we can just move on from
I'm just gonna make a comment, we move on, Mr. Chairman, it
Commissioner
appears
Wainer.
there's not enough interest in taking any action, and that's fine. I think it's an unfair comparison. This isn't equipment. You know, Mr. Gamble likes to throw out all these numbers, and they all sound great and fine. A lease over 40 years is $12,000 a year, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter remains is this: we're committing ourselves to an ongoing cost of $100,000 a year, basically. That's today's cost, just for operations and ownership. And then beyond that, you know, who knows? You know, when we allow the engineer to draw it up to whosever limits they are. We haven't established any, so they can just draw up whatever that sounds nice, and everybody's gonna get their wish list, and so we're gonna drop the budget supposedly $100,000 and make it a $900,000 building, that's $180 a square foot still.
But that's
And
not, you're figuring
let
that
me
in as
finish,
the
let
building
me
and not the
finish.
project.
I didn't yield, okay? I'm just making this last comment and we can move on. It's obvious that the board wants to move on with the library, and that's fine. I just, you know, all this attempt was to make sure that everybody knows what they're getting into. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Commissioner Gamble, you have anything further?
I'll just go back and say, you know, in your business plan that you had, it's not $100,000 a year's cost. It's comparable to the Lee Library again, same library, same size, same amount of people. It's about $78,000 a year. Factor in state aid, it's back down to about $52,000 a year, 53. I mean, if we're going to use the numbers, let's use the ones that were in the business plan. That's all.
Thank you. All right, so we'll move on to.
Got a speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
State your name and address for the record. I'm sorry.
Carol
Full address.
Al, 7408169 Drive.
Thank you, Ms.
I just have a quick comment. And I appreciate the discussion and I'm concerned, this year, sounds like we may have the money, but next year may be a different story. In the following year, I mean, I had this concern about employee raises last year. I'm just concerned, you know, the state of our county and our financial state of this county is, you know, it's kind of on eggshells, or, you know, it's very, can't find the word. It's just not it's not on solid footing. That's,
Right.
So I'm concerned about this year's probably going to be fine, but next year and beyond. So when you guys take up this discussion, Chairman Wainwright, I appreciate your comments because I think it's important. I think we did rush too fast on this because we had a lot of people from Dowling Park. I like Dowling Park. I go to their swim. I love their pool there, and I get a lot of benefit from Dowling Park. But I'm just concerned for the financial state of our county.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Howell. Is there anything further? Hearing none, we'll move on to county attorney items. Mr. Pratt, do you have anything?
Nothing, just
Okay, moving on to staff reports, item number 12. We'll start with letter A. If you're following along on your agenda, we're not going to hear from Catherine Allen, but we're going to hear from her right-hand woman, Elena Torres.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to just give a brief update. I just want to make sure that everyone, hopefully everyone here is aware that we're having the annual CARES dinner this Thursday, and that is an event that recognizes farmers for their environmental stewardship practices. So please, if you are not aware, we'd love to have you, and it'll be at the Suwannee Valley Agricultural Extension Center, which is the old experiment station west of town on County Road 136. The next thing I just want to briefly update you on that we do have a significant amount of work this year on the on best management practices, looking specifically at row crops. So quite a bit of work going on corn, peanuts, and sesame. And the reason that is so important to all of us is because, again, of the water quality and water quantity issues, and making sure that farmers are making an efficient use of the resources we have. The other thing I want to acknowledge that the Suwannee County Fire and Rescue actually came and helped us do a workshop on CPR training for watermelon growers in the basin. That is actually a new requirement for food safety audits, and that's an area that I work, actually me and other agents work quite a bit on helping growers comply with numerous requirements. And so food safety is just one of the many requirements that are out there. And so we are very grateful for their kind of a unique opportunity to have a room full of farmers, that were trained on this. The other, just a couple more things on the Master Gardener program, a lot of activity going on. There's classes on orchids, native plants, and butterfly gardening, all in in this month. And then they are accepting applications for their Master Gardener program for the training that starts in the late summer. And a couple of things I just want to brag on. Brian Estevez, our 4-H agent, had 2 state winning teams, one on meat judging, so they are the state winners, and then the other one on forestry ecology, and that happened recently in Gainesville. Catherine is going to have a class on Surf Safe. That's the class that trains all the restaurant owners and anyone who's in the food processing or making business, and that class is May 14th. And then a new class of taking charge of your diabetes starts May 21st at the Extension office, and that's a weekly session for, I believe, 7 weeks. So lots of things happening, but if you do have time, and please, we'd love to have you at the CARES dinner, and if there's any other questions, I will be glad.
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Wainwright?
When is our new agent starting?
May 15th.
May 15th? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I know I've asked you that before, but I forgot. Thank you.
And that time is from 5 till,
5 till 8, pretty much, I would say. And this year is a little different. It'll be a Taste of Florida, so all the commodity groups are going to be having booths and presenting, giving out samples, and hopefully it'll be a pretty good opportunity. So please come and share with our farmers and our industry.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item B, we'll hear from Betty Lawrence, Director of Library.
Thank you. As usual, my staff prepared an exhibit for the community and for you all to take a look at. It gives you an idea of the programs and some of the activities that we'll be doing in the library. It's right outside, so I'll invite you to take a look at that. I want to remind everybody also that you can go to the website to get information with regards to what's going on in the library. We've been doing a lot of outreach programming this past quarter. We've tried to hit different pockets of the community. We've been in McAlpin, been over in Welborn. It starts off with not very many people showing up, but it's my experience that when word gets out, people take a more active part and they come out to the programs once that's done. So we'll keep doing that. I want to remind everyone that we're gearing up for summer reading. And summer reading, I want to remind you, is for everyone. We do summer reading for adults, for teens, and for our children. That'll start in June, so we're gearing up for that. Also would like to express an appreciation for a lot of the churches that are now calling in to come in for tours of the library. That's a little bit different for us, but we really appreciate it. Any way we can get the kids in, it's fine for us. So if any of you go to any of those churches, thank you, and please keep it coming. Want to also remind the board that the Friends of the Library Library Update Dinner is on July 7th. Please mark your calendars. It's 4 p.m. We look forward to having you there. If you have any questions for me, I'll be more than glad to address them.
I think you just opened yourself up. If there's any questions of Ms. Lawrence by the board?
I will say, I seen y'all had a booth and a shredding truck set up at First Federal last week.
We did. We had we had a program. We have a couple of programs that some of the organizations come in and partner with us to do, and it was Money Smart Week. That's probably what
It
you
was.
observed.
And I walked over there and visited with the lady. I can't remember her name. I apologize for that, but she done a very good job of representing the library and the way she handled herself and ran the booth and dealt with the customers that came in, and I just wanted to share that with you. She's always behind the counter when I walk in his office, so I can point her out to you, but I just can't think of her name right now.
Thank you. I have a great staff.
You do.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence.
Thank you.
All right, welcome up Greg Scott, Parks and Recreation Director.
Good evening. Since Catherine's not here, I'll take a little extra time to make sure we cover all the things we need to cover. You did a brief for what Catherine usually does. Just want to let you know that we had an interesting event out at the Sportsplex a few weeks ago. It had the Suwannee Intermediate Schools dodgeball tournament, and they said about 500 people there. It must have been about 5 million people there because you couldn't park anywhere from about Silas down to Walker down to almost 51. It was exaggerating a little bit, but it was people everywhere. I could barely get out of the parking lot when I was leaving that night to head home. So people found places to park everywhere, but it's a pretty neat deal, a little fundraiser that they do to help offset some of their costs. We'll be hosting, please mark on your calendars, July 7th, our banquet for the Southeast Region Tournament. Be doing a taste of Suwannee to feeding all the teams and parents that be coming in. I won't say what all teams are coming, what all states, but it's the Southeast. I don't want to say a state that's not coming, because if I say Tennessee and they don't show up, I don't want to be wrong. So, anyway, the Southeast region will be about 12 teams coming in for that normally, and be hosting that. Looking forward to that. It'll be a good economic boost for our community. We also hosting a USSSA baseball overflow tournament from Lake City on May 16th and 17th. We also will be bidding out very soon the projects for the river programs, the grants we got for the 2 springs. The river finally has got down low enough the bidders could actually see what they're bidding on. So we're getting close to kick that off. We've got opportunity the other night to last minute to host the Interact Club's banquet for the Rotary Club, and hosted at the Coliseum. Went very well. Going in as basically a renter of that facility that night, working from the Rotary standpoint, you get to see things a different way, and just made some mental notes and things about things we need to address out there. Our guys been working real hard with Mark's guys, trying to make some improvements out there. Even though we hadn't really planned that in the budget, there's things that we need to do to make things better. And if we're renting it and got our name on it, we want to raise the bar a little bit. But been installing fencing and things for the fair, and mowing and weed eating and different things that trying to dress it up a little bit more that those guys didn't have time to do. But anyway, a lot of positive comments last night at the banquet. People were looking around thinking, chamber folks were there, people thinking about what other events we could have there. So I look forward to things we can do out there. Speaking of youth sports, give you an idea about what's happening with that. We got baseball going on now, baseball and softball. We've got 449 participants on 35 teams. That equates to 247 games just for this season. Total number for the year, just to give you an idea what kind of activities we get at the Sportsplex, 1,123 participants, 94 teams, and 521 games. That equates to a lot of raking of the fields and a lot of sweating and mowing round and round, and things that a lot of times I get credit for, but my guys work hard. My guys and gals work hard at making it happen for the citizens and the visitors. But as I mentioned last time, I believe we're getting to the point we were 26 years ago when we're running out of space. So those things are on the horizon. We've tried to plan for those through some grants and things, but we do it a piece at a time, and like we did, like Johnny Cash's Cadillac, like I mentioned before. But we will be working on that as we go forward. Summer brochures are out. I put some out there for y'all. There's some out here on the table out front. So that includes the day camps and the summer camps and swim lessons and all the things that we do in the summer. So take a look at those. I won't go into details on those. Regarding the airport, we got a inspection last Monday, and got a good report from that. Very pleased with that. One thing that the inspector looked at was the end markings that has been fading, so we're going to be looking at some DOT grant money to help take care of that. We met with DOT and also the engineers on the Jet A project, starting the process for that and getting into the bid process in the next fiscal year for DOT. Now, that's a fully funded project unless we run over, and then it'll be our responsibility for that, but hopefully we can be under budget, so what I expect it to be. When we just closed out a FAA grant, and there was some overrun there, some things that we needed to include in quantities and such on asphalt and lime rock and such. FAA covered the extra cost on that, which is not usual, but they have, I don't want to take credit for this, but it's because of how we're managing things out there, things are getting better, and that's why they will write a bigger check sometimes for that. They don't usually do that if you're not doing what you need to do. So hats off to folks out there that's doing the work. That's all I've got unless you got any questions. Thank you all very much.
Greg, I'll just tell you, we've been utilizing the baseball fields a lot here lately since baseball season's in full swing. The practice fields and the game fields, you guys have been doing a great job keeping them in good shape so those little kids can get out there and really make the most out of them. I just want to tell you thank you.
I appreciate that. Whenever I'm out there with my granddaughter playing t-ball, I always make notes of things we're not doing good. So we'll.
I made those notes too. I wasn't going to share them here tonight.
Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to the guys that do the work. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. All right, we'll welcome up our Chief Public Safety Director, James Summers.
Chairman, Commissioners, kind of let you know a couple programs we have going on right now. We're currently in the Suwannee High School and Branford High School teaching CPR to a lot of our high school kids. I think we're about 300 in Live Oak, about 150 in Branford. We're also about 60 employees through the bus garage that we're teaching CPR through and doing emergency exit drills with the bus drivers, trying to keep our kids safe as much as possible. So we're seeing a lot of benefit of the CPR programs within the high schools. Probably last week, hopefully, everybody participated in the Love Inc. They had a food drive, tried to raise money for some of their programs. We participated with that. I think we sold 320 meals through Love Inc., so that was great. You'll see our guys out in the next few weeks, months. We're currently doing hydrant testing and building inspections, so we're testing all of our hydrant systems throughout the different communities within the county. We're doing building inspections with all the buildings, making sure they're safe and they're compliant for our residents to do business in. Our service is currently going through our 5-year plan, looking at our current ISO rankings, what we can do to benefit and reduce the ISO ratings and insurance premiums for our residents. We're doing a call load study to kind of make sure that our stations are located in the proper means of where the call loads are increasing, and the station needs to make sure that we're maintaining our equipment to the appropriate levels. Our call loads are currently up. We're running about 35 to 38 calls a day currently. So our call loads are steady increasing as we're progressing. Kind of want to make you aware of an issue we currently have. We're looking for some resources to fund it, but we're having a issue with our radio system, our emergency radio system. We're currently looking for some grants, communication grants, things like that to kind of upgrade that system a little bit. But we're in that process, so that'll probably come back at budget time if it doesn't crash before then, but we'll try to have some answers for it at that time. Any questions?
Anybody have something for James? Mr. Summers? I just have one.
What do y'all run on? Is it the MACOM systems or the ICOM systems?
No, sir. We actually own, the county owns 3 systems. One system is VHF for the sheriff's office, one system is VHF for fire, and we have an old UHF EMS system that is not utilized. So we have some major issues with the equipment. It was state-of-the-art at its day, but that was 25 years ago, so the equipment's kind of outdated at this time.
Thank you.
Mr. Summers, how many calls do you respond to at the intersection of State Road 51 and Silas Drive? Do you have any idea?
51 and Silas Drive, very limited. We did have one today, right there at the corner of Irvin and Dimitri. But probably in the last few months, I would probably go out and say maybe 4 to 5 within the last few months. Some have been towards the evening when the school crowd is in. This afternoon was right around the school rush crowd that happened this afternoon, but I haven't seen a drastic increase. I don't know if you're pertaining to when that road was opened at that intersection for the Silas Drive.
Whatever. I just know it's a dangerous intersection.
Yeah, we're starting to see a little increase in trend in that location. That may be something on the horizon that we may look at a light, in that area or something, but.
Yeah, something. There's a real problem at that intersection, at the intersection of Walker and Silas Drive, where it crosses into the primary school there. up the street there at the other intersection. And when it comes down to protecting public safety of the individuals who are utilizing the school system there, it becomes apparent that somebody has to stand up and say there's a problem. And
We're getting more car wrecks on the 51 Silas side of it than we do on the Walker Silas. I know that the Silas and Walker is a major congested area in the mornings. I haven't seen a big increase on traffic accidents at that location, but I'm starting to see one at the 51 Irvin and Silas.
Right. Well, I've noticed an uptick in incidents there at Silas and in State Road 51, and then I've witnessed probably half a dozen near misses at Walker and Silas Drive.
Right.
One of which was morning before last. A car was pulling. It was in front of me, pulling forward, and the other car just pulled out because there's so much activity going on there, and they're trying to hop across. And
There's too much going on. You're having to pay attention to too much stuff, and something's going to get missed eventually.
I've seen parents go to turn into the primary school there to the east off of Walker, stop and let their children out at that intersection.
Yes.
I mean, it's a nightmare there, and I did see that accident today, and so that's the reason I mentioned it.
Yes, sir.
It's on my mind, and I think it's something that all four entities, the school board, the city, and us, are going to have to do something to.
I know the roundabout seemed to work well that I've seen so far. I'm glad to see we're looking at doing something there at Walker, not a roundabout, but at Houston and Winterweedle. I'd looking at changing that intersection up a little bit, which is great. But I'd like to see something in that area. I know it's an issue, so.
Yeah, I'd hopped across there one time, and we were going up there, and then I heard screeching tires. And even the kids said, "What was that?" And, I looked back in the mirror, and there was near miss. So it's a
Little Debbie was a little bit late delivering today, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, any other questions?
Not from Mr. Summers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just wanted to let you all know that Air Methods is operational at their leased property, and the helicopter sitting down there. There's still more improvements they want to make, some landscaping and such, but I'm glad to have them, and it appears they're 24/7 now.
Great.
So, thank you.
Protecting the public.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Gamble.
while we're on the subject of 51, I just got a quick question for Mr. Harris. Isn't the state, isn't that within their plans in the next few years to be repaving from the county line back into Live Oak down 51?
Yeah, it is. It's on the schedule.
I can't remember what year it is, but if we've got safety concerns, because I understand, I've seen the wreck you're talking about there today, but also know down at County Road 250 and 51, I believe I addressed with you the way that the road intersects. This may be the time to speak with DOT, being that they're going to be redoing this road, and address some of these safety concerns as they're coming up.
I think Mr. Green is going to be here in the next meeting, I believe.
Okay.
That we're
Well,
going with.
and if we're going to throw in, we might as well throw in there the road that the music center's on, because when it comes into 51 there's.
That's what I'm saying.
wrecks there.
Any safety concerns we have with these roads that are coming through these congested areas, as they're coming through to do their scheduled repaving and widening or whatever they're doing of this road, that may be the best time for us to address them with them.
I agree. Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. Moving on to general business, item number 13, discuss with possible board action well test at water treatment plant. We'll turn our attention now to Randy Harris, County Administrator.
I love libraries. On the well, the tests have occurred, and we have one well that we have very good test results. DEP has now indicated, I think I'd mentioned this in a previous meeting, that they are going to go ahead and give us a conditional approval on that well so that we can supply water to Klausner, which again is a part of our contractual agreement with them. They've been begging for us to go ahead and get that approved, but there's a walkthrough that DEP has to conduct sometime soon. We've been waiting for, there was an electrical issue in one of the panels that had to be changed out or something. They're waiting for a part. Once it was installed, DEP was going to be scheduled to come in and do a walkthrough, and then they already have the results of the test, so they should go ahead and sign off so that we can send water to Klausner. The other well, however, that's been the subject of previous conversations, is still a little bit problematic. They've tested the water. We still have issues with it. They've evaluated several different things based on some theories that they have. One theory is that it may be impacted by the rise and fall of the aquifer that we experience when we have heavy rains. One suggestion is, in fact, I'm going to ask for authorization for this. One suggestion is that we pull that well, pull the drop pipe, run a camera down the casing to see if some type of organic material has gotten inside that thing, causing this problem. The company that operates the water plant for us, I spoke to one of the gentlemen that's been with the company for over 30 years. He indicated that he's seen that 2 or 3 times in 30 years, and he'd like to rule that out. The other option that we have, in fact, I'm going to recommend that we do that. I've gotten some quotes in the neighborhood of $5,000 so that we can go ahead and have that done. But I think we need to try to answer that question. In the alternative, if we can't determine there's some organic material in there that can be removed and clean this problem up, there is another type of regular testing of the facility that can occur. It requires us to add an additional day to our service contract. It's called a 4-log. What that amounts to is you have to have at least 15 minutes of contact time with chlorine in that holding tank before you send it out, and then you have to know and ensure that your facility is constructed to accommodate that. I've spoken to our engineers, and our facility is constructed to accommodate that. So I would ask that the board authorize me to go ahead and have the well pulled, and let's see what we can learn from that with running the camera down it. And if there isn't organic material, then I would be recommending that we go ahead with this 4-log approach rather than consider far more expensive things that could be done to it, because the additional contact time with chlorine would take care of they're saying should take care of the problem.
Okay.
But at least we could rule out the possibility of some little creature that, may have crawled into that casing.
So just as a,
before the
oh,
drop
go ahead,
pipe
I'm
was
sorry.
put in.
I'm sorry. Just as a point of clarity, what you're saying is that if we decide to pull the drop pipe out of the well, then we run the camera down and we find the problem, we eliminate the problem, we won't have to do the other, to add the additional day
Well,
of service.
we are hoping that that would be the case.
Okay. Or do we not pull the well and then just do the additional day of service? Which is it?
I'll
Or do
tell
we
you,
do
if it
both?
was at my house, I'd pull that thing and find out if there's something down there.
Okay.
Might be a possum down there.
I would recommend that we pull it, because it'd be nice if we could pull it and find something and get it out of there and then find that we don't have to do the 4-log. 4-log, I can't remember now what the actual expense was. It wasn't a huge expense. We just increased the number of days. It may have been $200 and something per month.
I think that's right.
In
200,
service,
yeah.
two
Less than
224
3, yeah.
or something like that. But I would like to know if there's something down that casing
Sure.
we can remove.
You and I both, just trying to clarify. So gentlemen, you have the information. You have any questions of Mr. Harris? If we make a motion to do the
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of pulling the drop pipe and inserting the camera into the well to see what we can discover.
Right, but then you, okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Any further discussion? The only point that I was making was that whenever you do your motion, we would state that we pull the money out of contingency.
Yes, sir, that's, yeah.
That was my only concern, and
I'd
then,
be willing to, I'll state that in the motion as well.
okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to We have a one-year contract with this company, and I don't envision us using up the money that we've budgeted so far prior to the time that we get into the new budget, and we're going to know. We may end up needing to take something out of contingency later. I don't believe it's necessary that we do that now,
Okay.
because there's funding there.
I just want to be, let us know where we're going to get the money from, because we make the decision, but we don't allocate where we're going to get the funds from, so.
I'll withdraw that portion of the motion.
Okay. So the motion stands as stated originally. Motion made by Commissioner Wainwright, seconded by Commissioner Sessions. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Now, do we need to address the issue about or do we just want to do that first, and then, or do we want to go ahead and act on the service agreement as well? Yeah.
I would bring back, what's going to happen is, if that clears it up, then we're fine.
Okay.
Now, they had already conducted some testing. I'm sure that we'll have to do the tests again. And I need to just go ahead and handle that and have them do it. We have to have the test once we've done this. And bring that back to you. We'll add it to the consent agenda as an additional expense, because we know that that's beyond the original scope that we had agreed to, but we have the rates.
Okay. All right.
If we're going to need to go the four-log approach and add the additional to our contract, then I will bring that amendment in for the board's consideration as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll go to Dr. Jackson. We'll come back at 8:28. 8:28.
Did you say Dr. Jackson, or are you going to the Douglas Center next?
We pulled that.
Okay. The Douglas Center.
Yeah.
You can read the
I
title.
thought he skipped one, so we go straight into the.
Worse than getting a rabbit in the irrigation either.
Yeah.
Commissioners, you take your seats. We'll continue.
That one's gonna do it.
Anybody know where Commissioner Gamble is?
Might be out front, I don't know. You got back out front.
Up front.
Greg just went. Oh, my coat. Yep.
Okay.
I'm sweating now.
Item number 15 is discussed with possible board action, Economic Incentive Program and associated resolution. We'll turn our attention to Dr. Alvin Jackson, Economic Director, and also Jimmy Pravat will sing backup tonight.
Me and Clyde will do the dance in the back.
Great afternoon, Chairman Bashaw and Board of County Commission. We are bringing back the resolution that you directed myself and the county attorney to bring back. Just really want to thank Mr. Pravat for his partnership on this resolution. The resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Suwannee County, Florida, authorizing the creation of a new county department, the Department of Economic Development, creating the Suwannee County Business Incentive Program, providing definitions, identifying target industries, authorizing the expenditure of county funds for providing economic development grants. And I'm not going to go into real detail. We spent some time on this before. This resolution creates what I would like to call a performance-based incentive program. It is designed to serve local businesses, existing industries, as well as new industries. It's not limited to industrial, commercial, retail. Is also would qualify to make application for the business incentive program. Also, to manage this program and the economic development directives of the board, we are also in this resolution recommending the creation of the Department of Economic Development. That's the short version. What I would like to do is share a share what I call the Suwannee County Success, Inc. Performance-Based Incentive Grant Analysis, because at the meeting, we had in January, there were some discussions about tax abatement versus this program. And I'm just going to quickly share with you, I think you have this in your package for the public. You should have this, and really want to thank Ken with the clerk's office for helping me to pull together this scenario. Actually, the numbers are true numbers, tax dollars, tangible. This is actually an existing business that's here in the community. But quickly, when you look at the private investment, for instance, we have land that's already here that's being taxed, and the value would be $20,400. And then we have a new company come in that actually want to do new construction, and that new construction is only $148,748. Small building. The equipment would cost them $644,000, and the number of jobs that they would create is about 20 jobs at $35,000 a year, which is above the average wage, which would give us a total of about $700,000. So the total private investment scenario would be $1.5 million. And if you look at the pie chart, it breaks out how this private investment plays out. But what's really beautiful about this is that when you look at the graph, that existing land right now is bringing in about $479 in ad valorem taxes. But because we actually bring in this company and incentivize them to come in, it kicks up our ad valorem taxes to about $15,000. So on the grant analysis, when you take in consideration all those factors, capital investment, the land costs, the jobs that's created, basically when you look under the analysis, and I'll go down to, that's why I need my technology, but we don't have it. You look at the abatement scenario. When you look at the property tax abatement scenario, which is normally about 75%, over 10 years, basically, we would have abated about $116,000, which our net property tax proceeds after abatement would have been about $38,000 for the 10-year period. When you look at the grant scenario that we're proposing tonight, basically the grant provided would be $15,000, which is equivalent to the ad valorem taxes, less the existing tax for the land and any existing improvements. Over a 10-year period of time, we would have invested $60,000 into that project and collected $93,000 over that 10-year period of time. So the difference is basically collecting 38 versus 93 over a 10-year period. So let's talk about return on investment, because that's really what matters when we're talking about investing taxpayer dollars to assist existing industry as well as new businesses to come in. So we provide a grant of $60,000. The overall capital investment is about $793,000. The direct payroll is about $700,000, and the indirect jobs that's created is about 18 indirect jobs that's created at about $468,000. So the total investment and payroll is about $1.9 million. In economic development, basically, it turns over 2.5 times with it back into the community. So we're talking about total gross community investment of about $4.9 million. And that's flat. That's not taking consideration any growth. So for every dollar that we spend on the $60,000, we get a return of about $81.21 back. What I'd like for us to do is look at that 5%, because that's much more realistic of what happens. Once again, when we get down to the total annual cap, it's about 2.6 million times the multiplier. So the total community investment is about $6.6 million that's kicked back into the economy because we spent $60,000 to assist local business or a new industry come in through this program. And so as you're considering the resolution, just see this as an investment in creating jobs, creating payroll, and bringing new industry into our community, as well as helping our existing businesses grow. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the board from Dr. Jackson? To Dr. Jackson, then?
Did you figure out what the investment was per dollar on the 5%?
Yes. It is $110 return for every dollar we spend.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, what are the wishes of the board?
Motion approved.
Motion made by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gamble. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to do one thing before we move on. I know this meeting's running a little long, but I got a letter here dated from the governor. It was in relation to he says Mr. Jackson, but it should have been Dr. Jackson. Dated March 31st, 2015, and this is from the governor. It says, "Dear," and I'll just say Dr. Jackson, "as governor, I want to thank you and the Suwannee County Economic Development Office for all you are doing to create opportunities for Florida families. Last week, we are excited to announce that Florida businesses added 14,900 private sector jobs in February, totaling 807,100 private sector jobs for Florida families since December 2010. During February, businesses in the trade, transportation, and utilities industry created more jobs than any other economic sector. To help us continue creating an environment that encourages business, innovation, and growth, please let me know your ideas for how we can achieve our goal of making Florida the global destination for business and job creation. Sincerely, Rick Scott, Governor." So right here, working for us, we have somebody that the governor trusts and wants to know his ideas, and he's working right here for us today. So thank you, Dr. Jackson. I just wanted to read that and give you credit where credit was due. Thank you. All right, additional agenda items. Let's see here. We don't have any tonight, do we? Wow.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harris?
No, we do not, but I do ask for some clarification, and it may be reflected in Paula's records there. Mr. Baker brought it to my attention. There was a concern that was shared with him that we may not have included item number 9 in the approval of the consent agenda.
I do recall saying item 9 when I said it. I asked Mr. Pravat if I said it. He said I did, and now I'm hearing from Commissioner Fleming that I did include that in
Thank you, Mr.
the
Chairman.
request for the motion, and it was there. So, good deal. Thank you for that. Thank you for watching out for me. Are there any additional items that the board would like to add for the commission to consider? Hearing none, we'll move on into the item number 17, public concerns and comments. I have several here tonight. Let's see what we got. I think Mrs. Howe already spoke. Are you good? Okay. Deborah Johnson, educational information. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and if you could be a little more specific too with what you want to talk to the board about too. Then we'll put it in this file over here. This is Jim Ward, proper use of place names, a brief discussion. Mr. Ward, come up. While you're coming up, I did inquire about the park down there that the state had decided to shelve the project, and that is currently the state of that project down there.
Yes, Little River Spring.
Correct, yeah. And they didn't indicate that they had any interest in reopening.
Jim Ward from Branford. But you see, that's what I want to talk about. I'm not from Branford. That's one of the ways we use names that's a little confusing. Now, my address, my mailing address is 27476 29th Place, Brantford, 32008. Well, obviously, that's just a mailing address. I live in Hilda. I grew up in O'Brien. I was Jim Ward from O'Brien for years. I'm not from Brantford. I've never lived in Brantford. I'm not going to live in Brantford. I live 8 miles from Brantford. About 35 miles from here is Suwannee County. You got to be careful the way you use names. There's been a little controversy about the name of a restaurant in Brantford. What is it? 3 Sisters. 2 Sisters. Well, the name of it's Sisters. 2 Sisters is a convenience store in Dixie County on Highway 349. 3 Sisters, every time I hear that, all I can think about is these old 3 sisters I used to know down south. But we didn't call them the 3 Sisters. Everybody knew them as the triplets. I mean, it was pretty obvious. So, you know, some of us get easily confused. When I hear that 3 Sisters, I just go blank.
I said 2 Sisters now.
Well, that's,
And I know that's not
again, that's a convenience store in Dixie
I know,
County.
I got it.
Here a few weeks ago, y'all were going to name the catalyst site, Suwannee Industrial. Well, I pointed out Suwannee Industrial would be down on the coast in the town of Suwannee. Here we got, you take the name Suwannee. Well, I'm talking about the Suwannee River when I say the Suwannee, or the town of Suwannee, or the county of Suwannee, or Suwannee High School. Now, there's one that burns me up. You get people that give stuff for the school kids of Suwannee County, Suwannee County school kids. We damn sure don't see much of it down the other end of the county. It goes to, you know, when Walmart or somebody gives a grant to Suwannee school kids, well, it goes to Suwannee school kids, Suwannee High. Isn't that pretty much the way it goes? Well, you see little things like that kind of, it's stuck and I go round and around about it. But that's just me. But we need to be a little more careful about it. Now, I was down in Dixie County the other day. I got a little property down in Suwannee, and I go down there. Been going down there for so long. But I always get the Dixie County Advocate. Now, that's a newspaper. This is a Dixie County newspaper, an old one. And I noticed something in it that I'd seen this type of thing before. It's an advertisement. But it's obvious that this advertisement was not supposed to be in the Dixie County paper for the town of Suwannee. It was supposed to have been in the Suwannee Democrat for Suwannee County. And this is from an advertisement for Florida Gas Transmission Company, proposed project in Suwannee, Columbia, Bradford, and Clay counties. Doesn't have a thing to do with the town of Suwannee or Dixie County. But did y'all see the advertisement for it? No. This is for the filing, March 31st of 2015. Florida Gas Transmission Company filed an application for a Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. It was for the FERC. It was the FERC application. Hadn't seen that around here, y'all. Did y'all get one? Suwannee County surely was notified. Surely Suwannee County was notified. I believe that's the way federal law is supposed to work, that, isn't it? Mr. Harris, you're kind of doing like that.
Well,
Did
it's
y'all?
supposed to work that way, but I don't recall.
Well, I took this article by Jeff Waters, and he said, what's it doing in the paper down there? Where's our notice around here? Well, it says that there's the notices. No, it has a little map here. But it's not really a map. It's just kind of like squares for the county and stuff. It doesn't really mean anything. except that the 3-mile piece in Suwannee County obviously has to cross the Itchtucknee River right there if it's crossing the Suwannee-Columbia County line. It's a 30-inch, a 3-mile, 30-inch pipeline going back over to Brooker, I believe it is, in Alachua County. Hadn't heard nothing about it. Hadn't seen the advertisement. It does say here that in Suwannee County, the Branford Public Library has got information on it, as well as the Fort White Library and the Bradford County Library and the Middleburg Clay County Library. There's a way they're supposed to do this, and obviously they're kind of circumventing it there, and I wish somebody would find out something. I went to the library to try to look at it and said, well, they sent us a disc. I said, a disc? Does it play on my record player, or what I do with it, you know? I can look at maps, and I can read. That's about it. But I'll try it. Let me see the disc, World. Disc's not here. I said, well, what do you mean? Well, it's up in live, up in catalog. How long has it been? Oh, probably about a week. When's it coming back? Well, it's supposed to be back Thursday. Well, I don't know. This paper came out on April 16th. The filing was March the 31st. Even if they gave a 30-day notice period, it's done come and gone. And I would have just liked to have been able to read about it and see what the heck it was, and where it was going to cross, and what it was going to do. There was so much going on about the Sable Trail transmission line. And obviously this is a little splinter that's going to hook up to it and jump the river there and go the other way. And it's a different bunch, but still seems like it's supposed to follow, you would think, the same process. But proper use of place names. I've seen other things for Suwannee County advertised in the Dixie County paper. I can only assume it's the same mistake if it is a mistake. Seen stuff advertised, supposed to be legal advertisement for something in Brantford, but it wasn't Brantford, it's Bradford, or Brandford with a D in the middle. Either way, it doesn't go to Brantford. We don't see it. And if we don't see it, I guess they don't see it up here either.
Okay.
Well, I'm on a roll anyway. No.
Mr. Ward, finish up. please.
I'm going to finish up.
Messed them up.
I just think that we could all do better about using the proper name. Do you need this paper? Does the county have any interest in, you're the people, the county is the one that has standing in this or this type of matters. Individuals are limited as to just how they can approach it, especially after the deadline has passed, if a deadline has passed, without proper notification. If y'all weren't notified, I mean, certainly you have standing. Anyway, that's about it. You want this paper?
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Because it's not, Jeff says you send it home with Amity. Not home with
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Jim.
The last one we have is Mr. Snowden. You done? Okay. All right. Toss that. All right, moving on to number 18, administrators' comments and information. We'll turn our attention to Mr. Randy.
I do actually have something to say today.
All right, go ahead.
Just a couple quick items on the legislature. You know that they didn't finish their regular session. But a couple of items that I wanted to point out. One, that proposal that did pass was legislation dealing with local government construction preferences, local preference. You know, we've had some conversation on that probably 3 or 4 times over the last 4 or 5 years. Yep. But in fact, the state has now preempted local governments from using local preference policies in some cases. And those cases are essentially when local government is using more than 50% of their funding from state government for a project. And that pretty much wraps us up, because most of our funding for projects is coming from the state. So they're not going to allow for local preference. Some things that did not pass, and I don't know if these will be taken up again or if they'll just come back to deal with the budget, but in any event, some of the things that did not pass was legislation that capped the county Medicaid cost share formula to 3% like we had all recommended and when we visited the legislators. That did not get finished. The other was legislation, some of you may recall reading about the attempt by the power companies to have local governments pay for relocation of utilities. That did not pass either. That doesn't mean that it won't come back. They've got a pretty strong lobby and they're going to try to put that back on the taxpayers to pay for that. The other item that did not pass was legislation creating any new economic development incentives. Now, I think all of us have been told that they may revisit the issue of enterprise zones, but they were just going to let that die. Probably all of us have heard different things from different legislators, depending on who you were talking to. I know that we sent ideas to Senator Latvala, who had requested those from the chairman, and Dr. Jackson worked on that. We all had some input in it, but ultimately we communicated our interest in bringing back enterprise zones in some fashion because they were very helpful to us. I wanted to share that with you. A couple other quick items. One, the chairman passed this on to me. I had a copy of it already. Actually, it was a letter from Patrick Howard, who was over the CDBG funding for our water plant, $3 million grant that we had received. Short story is that they came in, did their regular monitoring, the auditing. We had no findings, no issues that need to be corrected. I share that because Diana Robinson handles that for us. All of that, those transactions, getting checks in, getting invoices paid, and purchase orders written, and then having to gather up the information, send it in for reimbursement through the grant. She's done a great job for us. She is now, some of you may recall, I think we had 7 people in administration. Commissioner Gamble spoke about the empty floor upstairs a while ago in the old building. We had 6 or 7 people up there when I took over, and now we're down to 2 full-time people, and she is now regular part-time, and it's working well. But she's done a great job handling CDBG and Rural Infrastructure Fund grants and Economic Development Transportation Fund grants and everything else that we have used out there at the Catalyst site. The item that we discussed earlier, the resolution and the documents for the line of credit, I just wanted to share with you, Mr. Baker shared earlier, that the cost associated with reestablishing that is approximately $1,700 total. So that wasn't a bad hit. We're almost finished with the RFP for the loan that will be advertised and sent out, and Mr. Ward will make sure that we get that in the right newspapers. I'm sure there's some banks in Dixie County that we need to communicate with. In any event, that'll go out soon. Ken has worked on that quite a bit. He's sent back and forth, and Mr. Pravat has worked on that. Right now, we're waiting for comments from Mr. Powell. He has those documents now. We're just waiting for him to take a look at them. So hopefully we'll have that on the streets very soon. And that's, I think, everything that I wanted to share with you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. All right, we'll move into 19 board members' inquiries, requests, and comments. Who wants to start this evening?
I'll go, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wainwright.
Branford is having their first annual Catfish Festival Saturday. I'm not interested in a 5K run. Some of you may. But there are other events being held there in booths and whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. Also had last, was it last Saturday, the grand opening for the second phase grand opening for the skate park. They've got a tremendous skate park in Branford. It's hidden. It's kind of, you don't really see it, but it's behind the Subway sandwich store. That is an awesome skate park. It was designed by a world-renowned skateboard guy, Tony blah blah something. I'm not into skateboarding stuff, obviously. But kids love it. If you happen to be on 27 and stop in and look at it or drive by, there's people there all the time. That place is busy. But it's a really neat little attraction. It's pretty big as well. I mean, there's 30, 40 kids out there at any given time just running all over that thing, doing crazy stuff and hurting themselves. But anyway, the town of Branford and the county just did some logistic stuff, helping them out to get some things moved around. But they've built mostly private donations. And they've built this huge park, and it is amazing. It really is. But anyway, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Wainwright. Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I just want to say, debate is healthy. Thoroughly debated items bring forth the best ideas. And the last board meeting's debate on this item is what made me dig further to find funding within Ms. Lawrence's current budget. And I'm grateful for that because I didn't know it was there. But I don't think that not providing information before a board meeting, whether it be a commissioner or a private individual, a department head, or anyone, is acceptable. And I would like for this board to maybe start entertaining some ideas of, I know it's been floated about in the past, and people fight it because they don't want to do it, but agenda item deadlines with backup, I believe is a very good idea. If you want to come to a meeting and make very informed decisions and have all the information before you sit down, the only way to do it is to have a standing deadline that requires backup material, no matter who it is, and you have to stick to that. So that's just an idea I would like maybe the board to consider moving forward. Debate's healthy. The best votes are a 2-3 vote. That means it's been kicked around and debated to the nth degree, but it's unhealthy to come in and make rash decisions when you haven't been supplied the information. So that being said, I don't have anything else. I just appreciate a healthy debate.
Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. Commissioner Fleming?
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Sessions?
Just to reiterate what Elena said about the CARES dinner, I'll be cooking for the Cattlemen's Association, so we're going to make sliders out there
They're making
Thursday
chicken.
night. No chicken, it's all beef.
All right.
So, it's like a little hamburger. So,
It's not fair.
I promise it'll be good cooking.
Not fair.
Everybody's invited.
So you're gonna help cook Thursday?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I had a couple things, and we kind of addressed them. I addressed the letter from the governor to Dr. Jackson, and then the CBDG thing. I was pleased to see the results of that audit coming back in, because as Randy said, these grants have a considerable amount of paperwork that goes in, effort that goes into pre-grant work, grant work, and then post-grant work after the fact, and they came in and audited and were just fine. So that's good news. The other thing I found interesting, I got an email, and this may be a little tricky to follow, but I thought it was worth mentioning to the board, and it's kind of a kudos to us, and maybe we had something to do with it, maybe we didn't. But the title of the article was "The Best and Worst Places to Grow Up, How Your Area Compares." And if you go to this website, you can click on the various counties in North Florida here. You can go to Hamilton, Madison, Taylor, Columbia, I guess whoever provided information. But if you click on Suwannee County, it says if you, this is the easiest way I can describe it, is if you live in Columbia, Hamilton, Madison, Taylor counties, and you are below the level that you would be considered poor, and you moved into Suwannee County, then when that child reached the age of 26, you would be making $950 more than basically the national average. Whereas Taylor, Madison, Hamilton, and Columbia County, you would be making less than the national average if you raised a child there. But in Suwannee County, we actually would give that child a better standard of living when they reach the age of 26. So I thought that was a kudos to our community, the efforts that we put forth, the efforts that this board puts forth, and I'd be happy to provide the information if you guys want to peruse it on the line here. So anyways, other than that, that's all I have. All I need is one thing.
Chairman, real quick, You reminded me of something. I guess it's been maybe a week, 2 weeks ago. Dr. Jackson and I went to a North Florida Economic Development Partnership. I think I got that right. And I just wanted to say it was a function that they had. But I'm used to growing up and somebody saying, "Where are you from?" You say Live Oak, and they go, "Well, where's that?" And you say, "Well, it's between Jacksonville and Tallahassee on 10, about right in the middle." And then saying Suwannee County, and they don't know where that's at. I was real impressed when I got down there and was introducing myself as a commissioner of Suwannee County, the different site selectors that were there, just the different people in the industry of economic development, as well as our counterparts on other boards. What we're doing here as far as economic development, other places are noticing. And it was very evident just from talking to the site selectors. You know, we actually had a couple of them that wanted to meet with Suwannee County in particular for some things that they have going on. So I just felt that I meant to do it last board meeting and forgot about it. What we're doing and the way we're doing it, it's getting noticed, and it's getting noticed in a positive light from what I picked up at that function.
You gave me some time to scroll down, and another heading here says, "What a childhood in Suwannee County does for future income." And this talks about exactly what you're talking about, is for all kids, for people below the poverty level, $950, for average $1,310, for upper income $1,570. So they make more than the national average when they reach age 26. So what you're saying is true. All the efforts that are being put forth were being noticed, and this site is very, very sophisticated and gives a lot of, and I wish that we had time to read it to you, but some of the good things that it said about Suwannee County. So, yeah. Anyways, and it starts out and it says location matters. So we're a good location.
I've worked your job my whole life.
It's hard. It's a long one. It's very long, and I would just rather forward it to you because
Can you put it on the county website?
Yeah, I'm sure we can put it on. We can put a link to it on economic development website. That'd probably be good. I'll forward it to.
But it was just, you know, everything we've been doing in a whole. There was people down there that knew of our the plan that we passed tonight. There was people come up and asking me about it, and I'm like, wow, y'all know about it? All the way from our advertisement we had in the Florida Trend. Just the different things going on the Catalyst site. It's got the attention of different people that's members of our partnership, as well as site selectors, and they were there from New York to South Florida, Louisiana. We met with them from everywhere. So it was a good meeting, and I was very impressed at the response we got from them.
All right. Thank you very much. I need one thing, gentlemen.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Gamble, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Fleming. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Y'all drive safe. See you next time.
Careful. I'll see you ready. Come out there and get something to eat.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
See the cares now.
I'll be at the golf
I have to write that down and look at it every time I say it. It's just a
Well, I
mouthful.
think I always send them a check, but I just told them I couldn't find it.
Where is that gonna be? Of the extension? Yeah. When is that gonna start?
Here, be safe out there.
Yes, sir.
It's around 5.
Okay.
I'll be out there at 1.
I'm gonna take I think I got the keys upstairs, and I'm gonna take them out there.
What is your email? That way I'll forward it.
I'll plan on it.
Good morning.
Yeah, man. Heck, yeah.
Got it?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this, I'm just put link. Did you see this? It's really, really cool. Gotta see it.
About 40.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me go.
It's hot, dry weather blowing in there.
This is awesome, awesome stuff. Look at this site. See, you can click on all of these counties. Now, the ones surrounding it are all in negative numbers.
I've got a field. I got a 20-acre field. I put 100 head on it 2 weeks ago and grazed it off. And I got the other 20-acre field is it's probably way too. I ain't been able to turn cows in on it yet.
I've been waiting on
It's probably
Sundown. I'm gonna buy one bag. Almost 4 acres.
I'll be up there tomorrow. I don't need this.
And then I'll go back to put rye on behind it in the winter, just to see.
You want just make copies of all of them for you to go?
I'm gonna tell you, hemp is a good product. It is an excellent cow food. I wish, the only thing is, just that it falls under that category, they just don't want to legalize it. It was grown back in the 30s, if you go back and do the research, and I did this past year.
Yeah, I know, but
I mean, it's tremendous cow food.
Really got a big focus.
For environmental.
well, I mean, some things you need to, and other things.
What's up?
Oh, it's worthwhile doing, but we just,
And really, the cost of it, it's like not much bag, but if you plant 4 acres,
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I mean, that brings it way down, plus
Working hard or hardly working?
you're not fertilizing.
Yeah, one of those? Yeah, one of those?
much, that's right. You, well, if you can
I was gonna
reduce,
say, there's only
you'll
a couple of
spend,
letters
you'll spend
difference.
$50 a day for nitrogen.
Good seeing you.
You cut that by
I thank you very much.
20%, or even
They say it
25%.
looks back about 100 pounds.
Well, that's even better. You don't have to fertilize. You just save $50 an acre right there. That's paid for your seed reduction.
And then like.
No, I haven't. I need to.
Satellite, every once in a while, understanding that you have donations.
Nothing else. I know how my ride did last year, it didn't work.
Good. Well, I appreciate your efforts.
We'll see what it does.
Took us last time today.
See you. Take care. Have a good week.
Jimbo.
Yes, sir.